Warhammer x LOTM, The Black Emperor by author Jiao Chao. Chapter 961-980. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. And those who want to support me, I have a Patreon channel, get early access to video on Patreon. 961. I've impressed 81,000 people, but I feel like I'm the biggest beneficiary of ISTVN 3. Nation of Disorder, the 4th level of space. Chapter 6 of the Master Flamini, kneeling in the black mist, respectfully reported to the Black Emperor. My lord, the World Eaters have arrived in my territory. I met with them and welcomed them. They numbered 49,000, led by Mago, the commander of the 18th Company, along with Kalog, the commander of the 21st Company, and Captra, the commander of the 37th Company. Nimrod heard the name Aaron in it. In his memory, this World Eaters Company commander was supposed to lead the World Eaters to land on ISTVN 3, but was subsequently betrayed by Angron. He charged toward the parachuted Angron in a fit of rage, only to be overwhelmed and brutally dismembered by dozens of World Eaters. He gathered his thoughts and continued to ponder. Open black lens bracket. I never thought I'd actually become 1/3 better than World Eaters. Close black lens bracket. World Eaters originally had nearly 20,000 people registered on ISTVN 3. I now control 49,000 people, clearly a result of my reliance on the 6th layer of the Nation of Disorder, Corrosion, Butcher's Nails, and Gene Seed. Nimrod also thought of Dreger, the company commander of the 9th Company, and the recruits trained by Galan Surik. There was even Locke, the first member of the War Hounds, to join their political front, who led Dreadnought. Open black lens bracket. Angron, Korn, let's say we divide World Eaters into 3 parts, who gets the lion's share, close black lens bracket. That still has to be us. Nimrod nodded slightly in satisfaction. Corrosion, Chief Apothecary Garland has finally been rewarded. They will be a vital force in helping you defend the colonized new district. Angron's betrayal will ignite anger, which they will vent on the attacking rebels. My lord, you are wise. With their help, I will surely be able to stop the rebels' attack. Flamini looked at the Black Emperor with awe. He neither expected nor anticipated that the Black Emperor could actually get the World Eaters to join his side. 49,000 people, even more than the 36,150 people in his 6th chapter. As Flamini was pondering, a shimmering psychic crystal fell into his palm. He channeled his spiritual energy to examine the area, and then spoke. The Alpha Codex. That's right, these are the records of the 1,000 Sons, experience in fighting wolves, Nimrod said in a deep voice. I have distributed it to all units of the Legion as a training reference. You must fully absorb Astarte's combat experience and prepare for the upcoming confrontation. 1,000 Sons, Flamini paused, taken aback. He immediately thought of Librarian, the chief of 1,000 Sons. Hather Matt, open black lens bracket. Could he also have received a divine revelation, turning away from darkness to light and following my lord, close black lens bracket. Our lord is a true god, even if he doesn't have it, if our lord desires it, he can naturally obtain it. Follow your will. Flamini respectfully complied, and was immediately swallowed by the black mist. As soon as Nimrod sent Flamini back to the real world, he heard a phantom prayer in his ear. He spread his spirituality, touching the ever-expanding and contracting sphere of light, pulling Lucius, the company commander of the Emperor's Children, 13th Company, into the Nation of Disorder. My lord, Lucius knelt in the black mist and reported to the Black Emperor. I am following your divine decree and issuing this warning in advance. Vespasian and Saul left with me, and some of the Emperor's children followed us, totaling 24,930. Nimrod's eyes gleamed. He remembered ISTVN 3, who cleansed the Emperor's children, the most, about a quarter to a third of them. The Emperor's children numbered 115,000, and Lucius has taken more than a fifth of them, in addition to Akerduana's 10,000. I'm also 30% awesome with Emperor's children. While Nimrod pondered, Lucius continued his report. Saul persuaded his sworn brother, Company Commander Garo of the Death Guard. He had 7,410 followers in Dalien. Nimrod was taken aback, he hadn't expected such an unexpected gain. When pressed for details, Lucius recounted what had happened. Open black lens bracket. Yes, because Saul Tarvitz also reminded Gallo in advance, close black lens bracket. He wasn't as disheveled as I remembered during his escape, and Ignatius Groger, the company commander of the 2nd Company, didn't even have time to board the Eisenstein. 7,410 people, that's almost half of the 7th largest city in Dalien. The Death Guard currently has nearly 100,000 members, and the entire Legion consists of only 7 large companies. Before Mortarian's return, when the 14th Legion was still called Twilight Raiders, the commander of the 7th Company was personally named a combat company commander by the Emperor. The 7th Company's status among the 7 companies of the Death Guard was second only to the 1st Company. Open black lens bracket him. Originally, Gallo fled in haste, and even though he had a high reputation in the 7th Company, he did not have time to call on his company to follow him. Close black lens bracket. Now, I also have the chance to outdo him. As Nimrod's eyes gleamed, Lucius continued his report. The sons of Horus did not heed my warning. They were persuaded by Horus. Nimrod nodded slightly. Because of his presence, Sejanus died later, and after Horus's fall, the Council of Four Kings became a mere shell of its former self, and naturally, no new members were appointed. He was too arrogant for Aureus, and they hadn't witnessed the Warmaster's massacre of the Federation, so naturally they weren't vigilant enough. Garviel Loken was unable to get close to Horus, and his and Torgatan's reverence for their father led them to disregard the Vespasian's warnings. I wonder if Loken will be as lucky as I remember, and survive Istvan III. However, since Samus exists, Loken is destined to die in the future. Nimrod knew that Samus was the devil created from the echoes of the warp when Loken died. He gathered his thoughts. The World Eaters, Emperor's Children, and Death Guard, together number 81,340, more than I expected. Compared to Vespasian and Nathaniel, I feel like I'm the biggest beneficiary of Istvan III. I have more power at my disposal than Dorne. Despite all its efforts, Dorne could only send Sigismund and Caba Diaz with 4 Imperial Fists companies and 30 guardsmen from Malcador to participate in the Splitter of Mars, and salvage a large amount of valuable assets. While Nimrod was pondering, he gave the order. Record all the evidence and accusations you have gathered and hand them over to Acton Cruz, who will then lead the Remembrancers to meet with Dorne and Malcador and report the Horus's betrayal. Nimrod knew that, although Nathaniel Garro had completed his legendary escape with astonishing courage, he had come to meet Dorne. But Dorne did not believe the warlords had betrayed them, and the key figure who ultimately convinced him was Cruz. It was sons of Horus's accusations against his father that led Dorne to believe that the Warmaster had betrayed them. Open black lens bracket Cruz, this time no one will ignore you. You'll be questioned repeatedly, and every word you say will be carefully considered by Dorne and Malcador. Close black lens bracket. Upon arriving at the Sol system, your mission is to travel to Mars and assist Archmagos. Arkan land, saving Mars, assets. You need to emphasize to Vespasian and Garro the importance of the Mark I IV production line and stockpiled armor and other supplies. If we want to win the war, we must save Mars, vital assets. I will obey your will. Lucius respectfully complied. 962 Faceless Transformation Alpha. On Gordian IV, at the foot of Mount Holdaran, 20 kilometers south of the planet's capital, the Painbringer Burnt emerged from the outpost. The Alphas had already infiltrated the Gordian system months ago. The Gordian League is composed of humans and dozens of alien races. The Alphas easily found gaps in the League and infiltrated many planets. He climbed the steep, leaden gray mountain peak and gazed at the capital to the north. A towering flame tore through the gray-green light cast by the Gordian star. Order Shadow had launched its landing operation 5 days prior. Burnt's Lernaean Terminators approached him, their emerald hydra emblems gleaming on their chests. His green goggles stared at the edge of the mountain range, the black Vostonian pattern rhino spewing out black armor warrior. The explosions inside the city have begun to subside, and their vanguard has begun to spread outwards. We should move out, Burnt shouted to the Lernaean Terminators of the Mordor squad, drawing his incendiary gun. Bane established the enemy finding rune, and Lernaean Terminators pounced on their first target along the path through the mountain mist. The moment the enemy appeared in his field of vision and Burnt raised his fusion gun, he saw the commander, dressed in a black Pluto-type Terminator, turn his head and look at him. Burnt pulled the trigger, and a torrent of blazing flames shot out, sweeping towards Order Shadow. The black armor warriors vanished into thin air. Neither the tactical interface nor his enhanced eyes could detect any trace of the enemy. Burnt scanned his surroundings warily, when suddenly, several dark shadows appeared in the flames in front of him. Whoosh whoosh. A magician, wearing Mark IV power armor appeared. He raised his arm and threw a series of grenades. Boom, boom, boom. Streams of molten flame slapped against the Iron Cavalry Terminator armor, which was covered with scale-like patterns, charring the emerald green Hydra emblem on the chest of the armor black. Librarian, Burnt shouted. He pulled the trigger, his finger pausing almost imperceptibly for a moment. He pulled the trigger, and a molten beam of light shot out, sweeping towards the enemy. Behind them on either side, Lernaean Terminators pulled the triggers. Explosive shells roared and fired in unison, a dense barrage covering the three Order shadows that leapt out of the molten lava. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Three figures vanished into thin air, then leapt out from the stream of flames enveloping the Iron Cavalry Terminator armor. The Lernaean Terminators pressed the activation rune, and the energy field of the power axe hissed and activated. They grabbed their giant axes and swung them at the enemies in front of them. The magicians arched their backs in a bizarre, spring-like motion, their arms twisting and contorting in an uncanny way, raising their powerful claws from both sides. The claws, gleaming with a blinding light, hissed as they gripped the sides of the indigo armor. Sizzle. Its gleaming claws tore off pieces of scaled armor. Burnt saw Order Shadow throw out a grenade, twisted his body like a pretzel to avoid the flames, and then threw out a series of grenades. Grenades whistled through the air and exploded around the Lernaean Terminators. Burnt's tactical interface suddenly started scrolling with text messages. Open black lens bracket. Identify unknown grenade models. Close black lens bracket. Components. Macro fuel, unknown combustion improver. Features. Approximately 20% less destructive than a standard incendiary grenade, but with a longer burn time, 3 times that of a standard grenade. Open black lens bracket. It has weak destructive power and poses almost no threat to the Iron Cavalry Terminator armor. Close black lens bracket. Long duration, combined with flames, leaping, psionic energy. Order Shadow, too many secrets, our database, no, what's wrong with me? The Lernaean Terminator's captain's clear thoughts slowed, and he spoke slowly, warning, Order Shadow has a spell that leaps through fire, be careful. The word, grenade, was swallowed by him, his consciousness slowly sliding towards the darkness of abyss. The marionettist company commander leapt out from the flames beside him, his index finger manipulating the spiritual threads, gradually bringing them under his control. Captain Lernaean Terminators stiffly turned around, at a 45-degree angle. His body suddenly stopped. Open black lens bracket. I am the captain, I am the one who suffers, I will not surrender. Close black lens bracket. The spirituality of the marionettist manipulates the thin black threads extending from the Lernaean Terminators. Lernaean Terminators continued to turn until the gun barrel was aimed at the Terminators beneath him. Burnt's index finger clicked, sometimes slipping off the trigger and sometimes landing back on it. The will forged by the tormentor strives to resist the manipulation of the marionettist. Darkness swallowed his last vestiges of consciousness. A jet of molten metal shot from the muzzle of the molten metal gun, striking the green goggles of a Lernaean Terminator. Boom! Fireworks engulfed the raised serpent atop the bronze helmet. The fireball dragged the massive cataphractii Terminator as it crashed down. Crack! Burnt activated the dynamic field and lunged at the Lernaean Terminators beneath him. You, messenger of pain. Open black lens bracket. The painbringer has been controlled by the Psyker. Close black lens bracket. Lernaean Terminators thought in astonishment. Each captain of the Lena squad is known as the bringer of pain. They are fierce and ruthless, no matter who the enemy is. He was actually mind-controlled by the enemy. Open black lens bracket. If only he could resist a little like before. Close black lens bracket. Lernaean Terminators swung his arm and raised his power axe. He wanted to end the captain's agonizing struggle, he wanted to liberate the enslaved will. Bang! With a deafening roar, the Lernaean Terminators were repelled by the ferocious power of the painbringer. He staggered backward, shouting, Messenger of pain. The painful messenger showed no mercy. His boots slammed into the ground, and his power axe spun and slashed down mercilessly. Bang! The helmet exploded, and Alpha's smooth head exploded. The painful messenger stepped over the corpse, its molten gun spraying scorching hot liquid onto the indigo armor. The honor guards, magicians, leapt into flame and charged at the Lernaean Terminators. A Lernaean Terminator swung his arm, and his power axe whistled as it cleaved into the Mark IV power armor. The energy field hissed and tore through the black armor, instantly shattering it. The magician, the paper doll substitute, suddenly appeared a dozen meters away. He then reappeared in the molten flow, his lightning claws hissing as they gripped the Iron Cavalry Terminator armor. The captain of the honor guard, faceless, seeing that the captain's puppet had taken over his duties, strode forward and lunged at a Lernaean Terminator. The bomb flew past him at high speed, and he suddenly fell down, then bounced up again. The power claw and power axe struck the opponent simultaneously. The claws crossed and slid across the neck of the Lernaean Terminators. With a loud bang, the head exploded along with the raised venomous snake. The power axe cleaved into the left shoulder of the Mark IV power armor, the hissing force field tearing the armor apart and causing flesh to explode. Faceless launched a flying kick, sending Lernaean Terminators flying. He raised his left arm, disarmed the power claw on his right arm, and then placed his hand on his torn body. The wound healed quickly, and the damage was transferred to his back. After his serious injuries were reduced to minor ones, Faceless looked down at his shattered armor, then at the intact Iron Cavalry Terminator armor of the Lernaean Terminators. He strode over to another corpse, ripped off the armor, and stared at Alpha's face. Faceless inherited Gene Father's radiant skin, which quickly turned olive-colored, his short black hair disappeared, and his head became bald. Faceless then put on a helmet and changed into Lernaean Terminator's Iron Cavalry Terminator armor. He dropped the other power claw and picked up the power axe. Greater than 963 from Alpha to Omega. Sid Renko, the company commander of the Lernaean Terminators, examines the data in the tactical network. Within 19 standard hours of their entry into the foothills of the Heldarin Mountains in Order Shadow, Chapter 12, the Alpha and Lernaean Terminators launched wave after wave of attacks from their outposts. Even now, Order Shadow remains blocked on the outskirts of the Leaden Grey Mountains, and has yet to gain a foothold. But the cost was enormous, with 419 Alphas confirmed dead. Even his Lernaean Terminators squad suffered 5 squads going missing and 36 men dying. He recalled the message from the Alpha who had infiltrated the Order Shadow. Nimrod, like them, had abandoned the Edict of Nicaea. Taiwanese novel websites are incredibly smooth, you can read them anytime on Opcom. Open black lens bracket. Order Shadow's combat strength is indeed formidable, close black lens bracket. Lanco received the encrypted document, Codex Omega, compiled by Lehman Russ, 25 standard days ago. The Alphas used the time before Order Shadow landed to train intensively, drawing lessons from how wolf packs fought against Thousand Suns. Librarian's fighting style, against Order Shadow's Psyker. Lernaean Terminators train in full accordance with the tactics of the Space Wolves, 1st Division, also wearing Cataphractii Terminators. The only difference is that the Power Axe replaces the Frostblade battle axe used by the Wolf Pack. Lernaean Terminators unleash their full ferocity, completely abandoning the Alpha's conventional covert warfare methods. Even so, he lost 86 Lernaean Terminators. Lanco recalled the blood he drank before obeying his father's orders, and the memories of tasting Alpharius. They were at another Gene Father they fought side by side before Omega was rescued by Nimrod. He has completed Alpharius's tasks time and time again, and this time he will surely complete his father's task as well. No matter the cost. Lanco located the B-25 theater where 2 Lernaean Terminators had disappeared simultaneously within the tactical network. He marked the enemy finding rune in Zone B-25, drew his precision-engineered pyrotechnic gun, and shouted the call to action to the honor guard. From Alpha to Omega, the Lernaean Terminators raised their flaming guns in unison and shouted, Alpha to Omega. The boots of 101 Cataphractii Terminators crushed the lead gray gravel, making the ground rumble. 2 kilometers from the edge of the target war zone, Lanco walked around a bend in the mountain road and suddenly stopped. He gazed into the distance, where an alien creature with a leaden body and green wings hovered in the air. They carried cylindrical boxes on their backs, from which a curved tube extended and spewed from the sharp mouths between their claws. A torrent of molten metal crashed down, crashing onto Order Shadow's battle lines. Lanco's eyes narrowed, and his black armor leapt rapidly amidst streaks of flame as he charged toward the mountain fortress. Open black lens bracket. Flames leap. Close black lens bracket. The 12th chapter of Order Shadow has so many psychers. Whoosh whoosh. Countless rockets roared up from the fortress, raining down on the black armor warrior. With a thought, Lanco's field of vision suddenly shrank and focused, encompassing only the Order Shadow squad. A black armor warrior appeared in a pillar of fire falling from the sky, then suddenly disappeared, leaping to another pillar of fire 15 meters away. Several rockets whistled and crashed down on the spot where he first appeared. Boom! The explosion leveled the area within a 10-meter radius, and the shockwave spread rapidly, engulfing one pillar of fire after another. The Order Shadow figure vanished suddenly, his form disappearing and reappearing repeatedly, instantly dodging the aftershocks of the explosion. Lanco's gaze followed the Order Shadow's leaps, then suddenly froze. Just as an Order Shadow emerged from the flames, 2 shockwaves from the explosion struck the black armor simultaneously from the front and right. Open black lens bracket. He was surrounded by shockwaves from the explosion, and the flames on his left stretched over 100 meters. Judging from their previous psionic jumps, that shouldn't have been possible. Close black lens bracket. Lanco's mind raced as he made his judgment. His gaze was completely focused on Order Shadow. He saw the toes of his Order Shadow boots touch the ground, his body suddenly springing up, and he rolled to the left repeatedly. Open black lens bracket. The reaction was so fast, almost entirely due to Ben. Close black lens bracket. Lanco was amazed. Boom boom boom. A series of rockets whistled and crashed to the ground, but Order Shadow narrowly avoided them. In Lanko's mind, Codex Omega scrolled rapidly as he issued commands through the encrypted communication channel. Abandon the use of the hot melt gun and switch to bolter. Once we enter combat, we unleash the berserk instincts we've trained in battle. The Lernaean Terminators silently accepted the order and switched their most commonly used hot melt guns to bolt pistols. Lanko looked down at the battlefield below, where streaks of black shadow leapt along the flames, instantly approaching the bunkers that were densely packed into the mountains. They flipped and leapt into the air, spinning like acrobats, dodging the dense flames that were right in front of them. Their roaring, powerful claws cracked and tore apart the alien bodies hovering low in the air. They flipped and landed, their claws slashing through the steel fortress. Lanko, watching the Order Shadow burst into the fortress, coldly gave the order, attack. The Alphas will not be bound by the Order Shadow's attack on the abominations, nor will they be bound by the honor codes of other legions. Their sole task is to achieve their objective. The moment Order Shadow won their victory was also the moment they were most vulnerable. 100 Lernaean Terminators followed Aranko, rushing down with a whoosh. Their bolter guns unleashed a dense barrage of bullets, covering several bunkers below. A faceless one suddenly had a flash of inspiration, enemy attack. He shouted a warning, and his body instinctively rolled over on the spot. At the center of the barrage, the explosive shells fired by Lanko and his guards whistled as they crashed down on the magician, who had landed on top of the bunker. Following their spiritual intuition, the three magicians flipped over and jumped off the bunker. As soon as a magician landed on top of the bunker, a diamond bullet fired by Lanko struck the black helmet. Bang! The helmet exploded. The barrage of comments followed immediately, engulfing the black armor. Boom! The body of magician crashed onto the bunker. Lanko pressed the rune, and the power axe hissed and roared. He leapt forward, swooping down on the landing Order Shadow like a venomous snake. Order Shadow crossed its claws to meet the howling battle axe. Crack! Amidst a piercing explosion, the energy fields collided and burst forth with a blinding flash of electricity. Lanko stomped his legs hard on Order Shadow. He placed the full weight of the Cataphractii Terminator on his body and right arm. The power axe slashed down fiercely. Bang! The howling battle axe smashed through the claws and slammed into the black armor, wedging itself into the shoulder bone. Lanko trampled Order Shadow under his feet, raised his giant axe, and sent shattered terracotta fragments and a cloud of blood mist flying. Lanko pressed Order Shadow down with both feet, and the power axe came crashing down again. Order Shadow's upper body was violently torn apart by the energy field. Greater than 964. You can shapeshift to Omega. Lord William Wood of Chapter 12 reviews the casualty reports on the tactical interface. After conquering the planet's capital, he led over 20,000 chapter soldiers in pursuit of the defeated army, launching an attack on the foothills of Mount Heldarin. The battle has lasted for more than a standard day, but so far, it has not broken through the fringe. The spearhead that ventured deep into the mountains was also stopped at 8.5 kilometers. The number of dead in chapter exceeded 130. In just 1 hour, 27 men from the 41st Company, which was attacking the A38 position, were killed. William reviewed the reports submitted by each company and encountered Alpha. Warrior's attack log reveals that his primary enemy has changed. Open black lens bracket. As my lord predicted, the Alpha intends to trap us here. Close black lens bracket. While he was pondering, he opened the ultra-high-frequency communication channel based on Nephilim sound wave technology and issued orders to the ship. Alpha Legion's covert outpost interfered with the regular communication array, compressing chapter's communication range. Deploy asset number 1. The marionettist's most important assets are 2. The Farseer puppet of the Marg Sisla Ark and the Crave puppet, which they control. Titan. As the white airdrop signal runes flashed through his eyepiece, he strode out of the blood-stained governor's mansion and looked up at the airdrop pod that pierced the sky. The dazzling light fell like a meteor, crashing onto the ground at a height of 302 meters. The airdrop capsule opened like flower petals, revealing that the cargo inside was neither personnel nor weapons supplies, but a rectangular cabinet wrapped with crystal chains. William strode to the cabinet and tapped a series of runes. As the cold fog spread, a bulkhead rose up, revealing a crystal statue. Her legs were completely crystallized and stuck to the bottom of the bulkhead. Her skin was covered in crystals, and her outer body was also transparent, blending into the crystals. Marionettist, spreads spirituality, manipulating Farseer puppet's spiritual threads. Click. The crystal statue crackled, scattering sparkling fragments. Farseer puppet opened her eyes, rose gracefully, and stood beside William. The Shadow-type Stormbird lowered its landing gear, and William walked onto the deck with the Farseer puppet. As the distance to the positioning rune rapidly decreased, William, following his inspiration, saw what was happening below through the narrow viewing window. His gaze was focused on an Alpha warrior is clad in the shimmering Iron Cavalry Terminator armor, his power axe unleashing explosive lightning as wolves slash fiercely at Order Shadow. Open the door. Quote. With a click, the cabin door slid open. William leapt, and Farseer puppet followed. When they were still hundreds of meters above the ground, Marionettist vanished into thin air and then suddenly leapt out of an exploded bunker in a mountain fortress. Farseer puppet's lithe body descended slowly, her narrow eyes flashing with a bright light as she flew toward Sid Renko, the company commander of the Lernaean Terminators. Everything around him was elongated. Lanko's arm, which was swinging the power axe, seemed to be entangled by thousands of threads, becoming increasingly sluggish, as if trapped in a static force field. The explosive projectiles fired by the Black Armor Warrior and the Indigo Warrior whistled past the Orchid, like projectiles hitting a lake, slowly penetrating layers of curtains. Lanko heard the whistling and hissing of the power claws and the explosive chopping of the power axe beside his ears, a stark contrast to his slow heartbeat. Lankei's two hearts beat slower and slower, his thoughts sinking into darkness. The bomb grazed Farseer puppets, time weave, and struck the indigo armor. When, the sound echoed in Lankei's mind, igniting like sparks in the darkness. Points of light appeared all around, then quickly spread, covering an area. Each pedestal under a narrow patch of light displays an item. At the center of the light pillar closest to Lankei is an obsidian pillar, topped with 5 rings. Each of the 4 rings is set with several green gemstones, and there is also an antique gold ring in the center. A figure clad in smooth, gleaming scale armor, wielding a gleaming blade at each end, approaches. He took the gold ring from the center of the base and put it on the little finger of his left hand. Looking slowly at the orchid, one could vaguely discern that the pattern engraved on it resembled the symbol 2. The difference is that the top and bottom ends of the 2 I.S. are connected by concave arcs. Lanko didn't know when his father got it, but he had seen another twin father who also had an identical gold ring. He believes that the 2 rings, which belong to the Lee brothers, should have been received at the same time. As for when and how to obtain it, that is a secret unknown to the Alphas. He quickly knelt down, and his stagnant thoughts began to flow. How can I be of service to you? Sid, lead the Lernaean Terminators and Alphas to the Gordian system. Alpharius stepped forward. I want you to hold off Nimrod and his legions for as long as possible. This is a mission to the death. You will not retreat, nor will you have the opportunity to retreat. Therefore, I want to tell you the meaning of sacrifice. The menacing Hydra emblem came into Lankei's view. We had already made secret preparations for this war before the Warmaster conspiracy even began. We are secretly sowing seeds, paving the way for our impending victory, while Nimrod and Order Shadow were a huge variable. His massive army is a huge obstacle to our plans, but war is by no means simply a matter of head-on confrontation. Our secret war will slow him down. He stretched out his right arm and held the pale spear in front of Lanko. It is Saracen tower, pale spear. It is the Legion's fangs, it is the Legion's soul, it represents our war spirit. He spun the pale spear while raising his left arm, the sharp blade slicing through his left little finger. A drop of blood flowed out. Alpharius stretched his finger out in front of the orchid. I am with you. You are Alpharius. 2 librarians emerged from the darkness, their bald heads gleaming with silver cables and blue crystals. The Emperor forbids the use of psychic powers, but the Alpha has always acted on its own initiative and never abides by the rules set by others. The 2 librarians' eyes flashed with blinding electricity, coiling around Lanko's body. Lanko stuck out his tongue and licked the blood from Alpharius's left little finger. I am Alpharius. A drop of crystalline blood slowly circulated in the stomach, and the psionic barrier shattered. Lanko's eyes suddenly flashed with blinding light, and his stagnant thoughts blossomed like flower petals. Click, click. Orchids resembled rusted robots, crackling and popping all over. He strode out, stepping out of the torrent of time. William stared as the Alpha's body swelled, its head bursting through the helmet, sending shattered fragments flying. His body stretched the Iron Cavalry Terminator armor to the point of almost bursting, the cables crackling loudly. The experienced, faceless, observer observed Alpha's face contort and swell, instantly transforming it into a completely different face. Surrounding Alpha Warrior, suddenly burst into enthusiastic cheers. Omega. The Lernaean Terminators swung their power axes with a deafening roar as they swiftly attacked Order Shadow. Boom boom boom. Amidst a series of explosions, a dazzling energy field tore through the black armor of several Order Shadows. Marionettist felt the spiritual threads he had initially brought under control suddenly break free of his grasp. The Alpha's aura also became stronger, making him feel a faint sense of fear. Open black lens bracket. You can transform to Omega, close black lens bracket. Just as Marionettist was about to open the high-frequency communication channel and issue the order to deploy Crave, Titan, the secret couple, suddenly stopped. He stared at Omega, a thought suddenly forming in his mind. Greater than 965. This is my way of giving back to Dornay in advance, since I still have a lot more to do with Dornay in the future. With a thought, Marionettist, the gems inlaid on the silver spear in Farseer Puppet's hand flashed with dazzling light. She hurled the spear, and a mysterious, melodious song echoed from within the gem as it hurtled toward Omega. Sid Renko, the company commander of the Lernaean Terminators, felt his blood boil and his boiling power drove him to let out a furious roar. He grabbed the lighter power axe and swung it down with a mighty chop. Boom! A blinding flash of lightning tore through the sky, and the singing spear was sent flying. Farseer Puppet swung his right arm, drawing an arc. The silver light swirled back into his hand. William breathed a sigh of relief. Although Alpha had suddenly become stronger, it was not to the point of being insurmountable. He is not the real Primarch. Open black lens bracket. Our Lord once said that Alphas can transform into the likeness of Primarchs by consuming their blood and through a unique psionic ritual performed by librarians, close black lens bracket. It can even elevate the body, to a greater extent than faceless. Marionettist abandoned the idea of airdropping another secret weapon. The unknown secret weapon should be used at a more critical moment. With a thought of Marionettist, Farseer Puppet raised his left arm. Alien. Lanko strode towards Farseer Puppet. Streams of dazzling spiritual energy suddenly rained down from the sky. A bolt of lightning as thick as a human body struck a Lernaean Terminator, its sharp crackling tearing through the Iron Cavalry Terminator armor. Blood spurted from the breathing grill, and the charred corpse collapsed. Renko sprinted with lightning speed, faster than Order Shadow in his Mark IV power armor, and appeared before the xenomorph in an instant. He grabbed the power axe and swung it down fiercely. Boom! The energy field and the spiritual energy field collided, and a deafening roar echoed through the Leaden Grey Mountains. Omega. Lan Ke fought off the aliens and looked in the direction of the sound. Dozens of Alphas emerged from the steep mountains, along with a dozen or so Lernaean Terminators. They attacked from behind Order Shadow, and the fierce barrage of bullets forced them to tumble and retreat. The new force charged toward the Lernaean Terminators and joined the front. Lanko lunged at Eldar Farseer, his explosive battle axe slashing at his long left arm. Farseer Puppet pulled his left arm back and gripped the singing spear with both hands. The silver spear burst forth with a blinding light, humming as it met the power axe. Boom! Lanko knocked the alien away, and just as he was about to give chase, he suddenly heard Warrior cry out in surprise. He looked in the direction of the sound and saw a dozen or so Lernaean Terminators suddenly leap up, their power axes exploding as they slashed at their colleagues. The Alphas also pointed their guns at the Lernaean Terminators beside them. Bolter roared and spat out a barrage of bullets, which pounded against the Iron Cavalry Terminator armor. Bang bang bang! In the blink of an eye, the tide of battle turned, and he lost 14 Lernaean Terminators. He had barely uttered the words when he suddenly felt his thoughts freeze and his body stiffen. Open black lens bracket. It's that feeling from just now, close black lens bracket. Eldar. Lanko, lost in thought, immediately rushed toward the alien. He grabbed the power axe, but just as he was about to strike, his arms suddenly froze. Farseer Puppet seized the opportunity, and his singing spear hurtled towards him. Alien, die! Lanko slowly uttered the two words, his eyes gleaming, and his battle axe crashed down with a deafening roar. Boom! Both the Orchid and the Farseer Puppet were sent flying backwards. Marionettist lurks in the shadows of the fortress, keeping a close eye on Omega. Open black lens bracket. As expected, you're not the real Primarch. Close black lens bracket. I can control your spiritual threads. Although you are not a Primarch, you are qualified to be my third mystic. Marionettist manipulates the spiritual threads to drive Farseer Puppet in a battle against Omega. At the same time, he continuously manipulated the black threads on Omega's body, gradually bringing him under his control. As his control deepened, Lanko's movements became increasingly stiff and sluggish, his thoughts became more and more chaotic and slow, even thinking became difficult, and even his fighting instincts seemed to be locked down. Finally, after Lanko unleashed a slow, deliberate slash like an old man, he abruptly stopped, like a still statue. Marionettist William emerged from the shadows, and Lanko moved again, stepping over. Lanco stopped in front of William and suddenly knelt down on one knee. With a thought of marionettist, Lanco stood up and rushed toward the nearest Lernaean terminators. The mystic Sid Renko, raising his power axe, swung it down on one of his warriors. Omega, Lanco's honor guard members collapsed with a thud. Lanco continued his charge, relentlessly attacking his men. The explosions were deafening. William looked at the 36 cataphractic terminators standing beside the marionnettists and issued orders through the royal court's dedicated channel. Collect the corpses and reclaim the energy crystals bestowed upon me by my father. At the same moment the royal court monks began their operation, William summoned a transport ship, crystallized the farseer puppet, and put it into a hibernation state. Then, carrying the new mystic, he boarded a shadow-type stormbird and flew towards the shadow of sovereignty. In the Primarch's office, Nimrod leans against the throne, listening to the report of William, the chapter master of the 12th chapter. My chapter encountered an alpha at the foot of the Heldaran Mountains, and so far 401 people have been killed. This was the first time William had lost so many warriors in less than 2 days, and most of them were royal court baron. The elite of Alpha, clad in cataphractic terminator armor and wielding flaming guns and power axes as their primary weapons, should be the Lernaean terminators mentioned in the materials you distributed. Your guess is correct. Nimrod nodded. They are the most skilled armed force in Alpha, adept at direct combat. You have already achieved something to be proud of. Open black lens bracket Dorn, I guess I did you a favor, close black lens bracket. Nimrod recalled that the key battle the Lernaean terminators fought during the Great Birthday celebration was their infiltration of the Sol system with Alfarius, causing considerable trouble for Dorne and killing a large number of Imperial fists. Open black lens bracket This is my way of giving back to Dorne in advance, since I still have a lot more to do with Dorne in the future, close black lens bracket. As he pondered, he glanced behind William at the Lernaean terminators carrying battle axes. Your new secret partner is quite good, he is Sid Renko, the company commander of the Lernaean terminators. He fought alongside Alfarius before I found Omega. He was a powerful fighter, ranking among the top alphas below Primarch. Open black lens bracket him. I remember that Renko was later assigned by Omega to destroy the Tenebrae facility because Omega suspected that the facility was leaking information to the Legion's enemies. Close black lens bracket. Before the operation, Renko drank Omega blood, took on the appearance of Primarch, and even gained some of his memories. He destroyed the Tenebrae facility in a successful suicide mission. Unexpectedly, he didn't die in Tennessee, but instead became William's secret lover. Upon hearing this, William's eyes lit up, and he turned to look at the secret puppet Sid Renko. Although the Lernaean terminators carried out their missions in secrecy, their records were found in the documents bestowed by the Black Emperor. Lanco is the leader of the Lernaean terminators, who excels in direct combat, so his fighting strength is naturally not bad. Based on the battles he witnessed, almost no one in chapter, and even he himself had to prepare meticulously, could defeat Lanco alone in a head-on confrontation. Open black lens bracket The marionettist should remain hidden behind the scenes as much as possible, and should be deployed to engage in direct combat during battles. Close black lens bracket. As William pondered, Nimrod stared at Lanco, thinking to himself. Open black lens bracket able to command Lernaean terminators and orchids, either Alfarius or Omega. Close black lens bracket. They must have been making arrangements in secret. I cannot be tied down by the Gordian campaign for too long, I must give them ample time to regroup. Thinking of this, Nimrod looked at Arsenadun and gave the order. Greater than 966 Horus, my 1,000 worlds will be achieved on your shoulders. Open the star chart and locate the Tower Nagra system. Primarch's attendant immediately obeyed the Black Emperor's command, raising his staff and projecting a star map. Arsenadun entered reader mode, recalling the materials he had read, and began to speak. The Tower Nagra galaxy is located on the edge of the Ursulus sector, only 52.7 light-years from the Istvan galaxy. It has the most stable warp passage to Terra and is the most industrialized galaxy in the entire sector. Diamond Star within the galaxy is a level 1 forge world, and there are also 23 mining outposts and refineries scattered throughout the galaxy. Tanagra was the world Horus surrendered to in the early days of the Great Crusade, and has since been a key logistical hub in the sector. Arsena thoughtfully switched to student of ratiocination mode. Tanagra is key. Once we take it, not only will Horus lose control of a vital supply base, but its morale will also suffer from the loss of significant conquest achievements. It's also bait, an alpha sent by Horus, Nimrod said. It has already infiltrated the Forge world. Our enemies are not only the Skitarii and Librarian mechs, but also the lurking alpha. Even though he knew Horus had thrown out a shiny decoy, and that Ryan hadn't encountered an alpha, when he hit Diamond Star, he still decided to take the bait. Diamond Star is not only strategically valuable, but also a high-value asset. But in order to reduce the time it takes for Alpha to build its secret site, he decided to launch an immediate offensive. In his memory, Lion L. Johnson only learned of the Istvan 5 Inches landing site massacre long afterward. At that time, he predicted that the war with the Gordian League would last another 8 months before it was completely over. Ryan dispatched a battle group of 15 warships to advance and, after ending the war with Gordian, captured Diamond Star. How long is the war with Gordian expected to last? My lord, the various chapters have captured the main strongholds of the Gordians as planned, but they and their alien allies are still putting up a fierce resistance, taking advantage of their familiarity with the environment. The ongoing clearing operation is expected to last 5 months. We have discovered a total of 19 habitable worlds in this star system. Among them, Gordian IV has the greatest development value. It has abundant mineral resources and can be classified as a mining world. Nimrod nodded. Chapters 10 and 12 will stay and continue the cleanup. Chapters 4, 7, 9, and 11, come with me to the Tower Nagra system. Follow your will. After Primarch's attendant and William Wood left, Nimrod stood up, moved out of sight of others, and stepped into the Nation of Disorder. After ascending the throne in the 4th dimension, he spread his spirituality and touched the golden sphere of spiritual light. After confirming that Lord Howard Finder of the first chapter was alone, Nimrod, with a thought, pulled him into the Nation of Disorder. My lord. Howard knelt in the black mist. Your chapter, depart immediately for the Akum Sutu's cluster, declare Warmaster's treason, and bring the entire cluster under your rule. The Akum Sutu's cluster is Horus Lupercal's first shining achievement in his journey into space, consisting of 100 industrially advanced star systems. In previous campaigns to quell the rebellion, he had attempted to suppress Nimrod and Corvus Corax and establish the Warmaster's authority in the campaign to quell the alien Blind King. Nimrod has been determined ever since then to conquer Horus and seize the crown jewel. Now the time has finally come. There's a saying that goes, stand on the shoulders of giants. Horus, my 1,100 worlds will be achieved on your shoulders. Before the great birthday celebration began, his domain already comprised 819 worlds, and after acquiring the Akum Sutu's cluster of 308 worlds, it exceeded 1,100. I will obey your command. Howard replied respectfully. After Nimrod sent him back to Alicia in the Segmentum Solar, his spirituality spread again, causing the assassins, led by Maria Kernikova, the demoness of afflictions, to create chaos in the Akum Sutu's cluster and weaken the resistance of the defenders. When he quelled the Akum Sutu's cluster, he had already made preparations in advance, sending Maria and others to infiltrate most of the local star systems. At the same moment that Nimrod deployed the Akum Sutu's cluster to conquer the war, purple gold and dark gray warships sprang from the Gate of Bliss. The tech marines of the Andronius, along with craftsmen and laborers, worked tirelessly to repair the ship damaged during their escape from the Istvan system. Inside the meeting room, Nathaniel Garo, formerly of the 7th Company of the Death Guard, after escaping Istvan III, ordered his followers to paint their right arms and shoulders crimson and brand them with the emblem of Twilight Raiders that Mortarion had before his return. He stared intently at Lucius, the company commander of the Emperor's Children, 13th Company. Our most important task right now is to report to the Emperor and the Sigillite. We paid too high a price to get back to Terra, said Saul Tarvitz, commander of the 10th Company of the Emperor's Children, his sworn brother. The warp storm devoured 4 ships and the lives of 920 Astartes. 38 navigators and 17 astropaths also gave their lives on our doomed journey. We have 31,420 warriors, enough to conquer an entire subsector, yet we're only doing astropath work. Lucius said sarcastically, arms crossed. I understand, Commander, Lord of Emperor's Children, Vespasian said. You want revenge against your father and the other traitors, but we are not powerful enough to decide anything. I don't think so. Lucius took out the data slate that the Black Emperor had recently bestowed upon him and connected it to the cogitator in the conference room. A holographic image was projected, and an old man in a red robe, holding the sage scepter and showing no signs of alteration, appeared out of thin air. I am Mars Archmagos Arkan Land. Regulus, the messenger of Warmaster, has returned to Mars, Fabricator General. Kelber Hal has sided with Warmasters. Lucius, I need your help. The scene shifts to Vespasian and the others watching the Mark IV power armor, which the various legions have recently begun equipping, slowly rotate. The numerous weapons and equipment on Mars are important strategic assets for us to win this war in the future. The Forge Temple in Mundus Oculum alone contains 12,000 Mark IV power armor suits and weapons capable of arming twice the number of warriors. There are also design data and finished products of new powered armor that have not yet been deployed. Lucius shut down Cogitator, his eyes sweeping over the crowd like sharp swords. Think about it, if these things fall into Horus's hands, it will be even more difficult for us to win this war. If we want to stop this from happening, we must go to Mars immediately to support Rand Archmagos. Vespasian nodded. We must take action. He looked around at everyone and said, we will leave behind a hologram as evidence to prove Warmaster's betrayal. His gaze finally settled on Acton Cruz, the company commander of the 3rd Company of the Sons of Horus. Acton, you will represent us on our journey to Terra to meet the Emperor and the Sigillite and report the Warmaster's shameful rebellion. All right. Cruz nodded. I will relay your words to the Emperor. A glint of light flashed in Lucius's eyes. He had fulfilled the Black Emperor's divine decree. At the same time that he, along with the Emperor's children and the Death Guard, headed to Mars, a meticulously prepared performance began at the Venice Theater of the Pride of the Emperor. Greater than 967 Becca Kinska's Fallen Melody, the only 2 unaffected Emperor's children. Pride of the Emperor, Venice Theater. The auditorium was painted in bright colors, and every line was inlaid with gold trim. 6 marble columns support the hall, and the front of the balcony is decorated with exquisite plaster decals. The parquet flooring unfolds in a wide, concentric arc from the front of the stage, with a semicircular niche on one side displaying Terra's renowned artists and other exotic and luxurious sculptures. The sculptures include some works that are difficult to distinguish, with androgynous bodies and jewel-encrusted horns. A brightly colored copper cage hangs at the bottom of the stage, from which a sweet fragrance wafts. Dozens of musical instruments, consisting of pipes, bellows, and generators, are connected to towering amplifiers to recreate the wondrous tones of the Temple of Lar. Colored lights and perfectly arranged prisms illuminated the entire theater with a dazzling rainbow, highlighting the embroidery on the red velvet. A magnificent battle, a decadent legend, a naked revelry. On the theater's vaulted ceiling, in the work of the painter Serena, snakes and beasts from ancient legends move alongside naked humans. Tens of thousands of people filled the seats and boxes, and 3,000 Emperor's children took off their robes and put on gorgeous training uniforms. They had just returned from their work casting surface fortifications at Istvan V. The company commanders sat in the boxes on both sides of the stage. The Phoenician nest offers the best view and is decorated with golden murals inside. The 600 candles of the chandelier shone on Fulgrim, the nest of the Phoenicians. He was wearing a purple robe and waved to the crowd. The thunderous applause lasted for a long time, making his smile even more radiant. The defection of nearly 25,000 people made him lose face in front of Warmaster. When Warmaster offered him the task of building the perfect defensive fortifications on Istvan V, he readily accepted. Now, feeling the heartfelt adoration of his offspring, he felt joy. Fulgrim's gaze swept over the 6,000 remembrancers, who were excitedly discussing the upcoming opening of Malawilia. The lights suddenly dimmed, the huge velvet curtain parted, and bright spotlights shone on the stage. Terra's most talented composer, Becca Kinska, made a dazzling appearance, wearing a purple semi-transparent dress adorned with gold threads and sparkling gemstones. Her long, flowing blue hair exuded an otherworldly feminine aura that permeated the entire theater. Jinska walked across the stage and took her seat on the conductor's platform. Jinska picked up an oddly shaped baton, tapped it on the music stand, and then began to play Malawilia. The beginning of. The first note rang out from the newly constructed musical instrument, and a tremendous noise erupted from the orchestra pit, the sound reaching every corner of Venice. Inside the left-hand box of the Phoenician nest, the commander, Lord of Emperor's Children, Akurduana listened to the beautiful instruments playing, which conveyed a romantic aesthetic and hinted at future themes. As the music rose and fell, he felt himself being taken on a dazzling sensory journey, and emotions that Astartes had never experienced before were unearthed from the depths of his soul and resounded with the colliding beats and wild, swirling melodies. He gazed at Kinska, whose dormant male instincts had been awakened, and the image of his captain of the Second Company involuntarily flashed through his mind. The figure of Solomon Demeter. This time, he did not follow his father's instructions and bring his company commanders to Venice. Instead, he left his warriors on Istvan V under the pretext of building fortifications. Solomon's words flashed through his mind, Mrs. Kinska is strange. Akurduana felt he wanted to laugh and cry at the same time, a terrible anger and immense melancholy spread through him. He closed his eyes slightly, allowing himself to enter a meditative state, and in the midst of the exhilarating release of joy, entered the first level of Thelema state. Jinska's alluring eyes swept over Akurduana's direction, and then she began to shake wildly. Amidst the clamorous music, one by one, the remembrancers raised their hands, covered their ears, and struggled in agony. Remembrancer Julius saw the slender figure of Artoria Byers in the spectator's seat and immediately lunged at the ungrateful scoundrel, swinging his fist. Dozens of people immediately started fighting, their bloodlust sweeping around them like a shockwave. The music rose like a whirlwind, gradually building to a thunderous climax that assaulted everyone's senses and captivated the attention of the Remembrancer and Emperor's children. Inside the box, first Captain Julius Castellan and the others stood up and stared at the stage. The colors of darkness project a sense of an impending tragedy, as if they were immersed in the power their father felt when he entered the Temple of Rahl. Immediately, a pleasurable tremor rippled through the spectator. Akurduana remained seated, pushing his mental state to the second level, his spine emitting dazzling golden light that illuminated his purple-gold armor. Jinska's eyes darted around, her gaze lingering on Akurduana once more. Amidst a dazzling array of colors, a second beam of light shone on the stage, revealing the slender figure of Kolerin Asenica, the lead actress in Malawilia. Asenika's soprano voice brought the human voice to new heights. Her voice, however, was not at all abrupt, it perfectly overlapped with Kingska's voice, impacting the senses of Emperor's children. Kaiserin burst into uncontrollable laughter, the supernatural stimulation causing him to instinctively cover his head with his hands. Eidolon was nailed to the chair, the beautiful yet terrifying cries of God during childbirth echoing in his ears as he forcibly entered the realm of reality. His jaw gaped open at an angle that was unreasonable even for Astartes, as if he wanted to join in the singing of Kinska and Asenica. His mouth stretched open with a scream, his bones bulged and cracked, hissing like a venomous snake. Fulgrim leaned forward, his silver hair dancing wildly, and purple flames ignited in his black eyes. "It's so beautiful." Horus spoke of this power, but I never imagined it would be so perfect. Akurduana frowned, about to say something. Suddenly, Aseneca screamed, and thousands of remembrancers pounced on those around them, tearing at each other with their teeth, even though they had no enmity with each other. Another group of people embraced each other, releasing their carnal desires in waves. Hundreds of Emperor's children were engulfed by the music, swinging their fists and fighting fiercely like wild beasts. A tremendous buzzing sound erupted, and Akurduana looked in the direction of the sound, only to see the portrait he had seen in his father's cabin wriggling and stretching. The Fulgrim, depicted inside, is struggling to break free from the frame, and its burning flames seem to contain a deep tunnel within its eyes. Akurduana pushed his mind to the third level, gazing at the greasy flames rising from the strange musical instruments, which transformed into countless colorful liquid serpents that surged into the physical universe. The madness and indulgence sung by Jinska followed closely behind, and the remembrancers were immersed in wild joy. The musicians, faces contorted into terrifying, maniacal masks, their hands dancing wildly over their instruments, the music gripping their hands tightly, giving them no respite. Click. Coraline Aseneka's high notes were tinged with pain as she danced wildly, her limbs breaking and twisting at angles no human body could withstand. The crisp sound of bones blends into millions of melodies. Her eyes were lifeless, every bone in her body was shattered into powder, yet a song still emanated from her body. Thousands of Astartes were mobilized. They punched Remembrancer to death, drank his blood, ate his flesh and blood raw, branded their broken bones onto his armor, and hung human skin on his armor as shawls. Becca Kinska's face was filled with triumphant joy as she gazed at her greatest creation. She struck the final note. A terrifying scream ripped through the rising pitch, and Coraline Aseneka's body twisted and flew into the air. The horrible, wet-sucking sounds engulfed her, and her broken limbs opened up, becoming light and soft once more. Her body, a pale lilac color, slowly descended onto the stage. Her oval head was covered with needle-like hairs, and her green, saucer-shaped eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. She opened her alluring lips, revealing a mouth full of fangs. Each of her arms transformed into a shimmering red carapace, and moist flesh formed crab-like claws. With a flick of her hair, she uttered a heartbreaking siren song. Akurduana slowly got up, but his steps suddenly stopped, as if he were rooted to the ground. He saw 5 of the choir members convulsing and contorting like Aseneka, transforming into bewitching monsters. Aseneca and 5 other people wriggled like snakes and surrounded Becca Kinska. A massive claw pierced through Jinska's body, tearing her to pieces as the forged miracle ripped at her, while a seductive hoofclaw seized her. The music stopped abruptly. Isn't it amazing? Tears streamed down Fulgrim's face. Becca is a fiery comet. Everyone stopped to look at her, but she was already gone. We will never see anything like her again, and none of us can forget her. His skin regained its vitality, and his eyes shone with new purpose. Akurduana watched as the figures passed by, and the third company commander, Marius Varusin, was the first to rush forward and pick up Kinska's strange instrument. He held the long filling device high, hanging it in the crook of his arm like a bolter, and plucked it along the long axis of the instrument, producing a loud sound like the turning of a chainsword motor. One by one, Emperor's children ran onto the stage and picked up orchestral instruments. Varusin pointed his instrument at the crowd and released a low note. Flames leapt from his body, and the shockwave of the explosion shot into the crowd, tearing apart 14 remembrancers with a deafening tremor. Their bones broke, and their heads exploded into fragments from the impact of the noise. Just as Varusin and the other Emperor's children were about to make noise and kill others, a sudden shout rang out. "Stop!" Fulgrim looked at the furious Akurduana and sighed. "My son, you should enjoy such beautiful music." "Stop!" Akurduana said again. "Kill him. He doesn't understand the joy of music. He's not perfect." A voice suddenly rang in Fulgrim's mind. "No, he is my beloved son, he will understand." Fulgrim walked onto the stage and said, "Go back and savor the songs you heard today." Akurduana's gaze swept over the distorted Emperor's children, finally settling on the only figure standing quietly, with Paratine's boning knife hanging at his waist. The blade of Paratine, Lava's Cario. Lavas and he were the only two members of Emperor's children who did not succumb to the decadent music of Beka Kinska. Akurduana strode past Eidolon, Kasoran, and the others, heading straight for Lavas. 968 I can still be awesome. Emperor's children, I want all the dual champions. Lavas. Lava's Cario heard the familiar voice calling him and turned around. Lord Akurduana. Akurduana stared at Lavas. Just now at the Venice Theatre, you were the only one who wasn't immersed in the performance. I saw no art whatsoever in the indulgent performance. Forgive me for speaking frankly, but both Beka Kinska's singing and her father's ugly paintings disgusted me. The creatures that appeared later were even more disgusting and ugly. You don't agree with your father's actions? Akurduana asked. I believe my father's rebellion was not wrong. The emperor once said that warp is all nonsense. But everything I just witnessed in Istvan proves that what he said was nothing but a lie, and that the empire he built was not perfect. I still admire my father, and I will still follow in your footsteps and pursue the perfect martial arts, but I will never fall into depravity like Eidolon and the others. The blade of Paratine gazed reverently at the sword champion. Akurduana remained silent for a few seconds after hearing Lavas's words. Paladin swordsman, from this moment on, you are my personal bodyguard. Lava's eyes gleamed, and he suddenly knelt down on one knee. Thank you for your trust, sir. Akurduana did not return to Istvan V, instead, he took Lavas and returned to his flagship. Upon returning to his cabin, he drew the sword given to him by Thierry Vieira and swiftly struck the runes on the ground. As each geometric shape was illuminated by spreading spirituality, the lingering nauseating and greasy feeling of the Grand Theatre completely dissipated. The prayers were repeated again and again, and the time seemed exceptionally long. Akurduana's mind flashed back to the mutations and rampant killings of the Emperor's children. The Emperor's children have fallen into depravity, and so has the father. He gathered his scattered thoughts and prayed devoutly. It wasn't until the fifth time he prayed that the black mist appeared out of thin air and enveloped his body. My lord, a performance is being held at the Venice Theatre. After listening to Akurduana, Nimrod said, Beka Kinska is not dead. Her songs pleased Slanesh and tore the veil between reality and warp. Most of the Emperor's children have fallen into depravity. Jinska's artistic talent in creating the Malawilia pleased the Prince of Pleasure, and her dedication delighted Slanesh. 6 people, including a Seneca, were possessed by the devil. They were the hosts, and they were Slanesh's pawns that reached into the real world. Through them, Slanesh transformed Kinska into the Devil Prince. 7. Nimrod knew the crucial moment for Kinska's ascension and killed her in Venice to fulfill the requirements of the ascension ceremony. Even if it doesn't meet the requirements for his top-tier potion material evolution, it can still upgrade Pelkashelny and others. However, this is difficult to achieve in practice. The Istvan system currently hosts 4 rebel legions, and the pride of the Emperor is the Fulgrim's stronghold. The key point is that even if one successfully infiltrates and kills Jinska right under Fulgrim's nose, it would be difficult to escape unscathed from the siege of the Primarch and 3,000 Emperor's children after promotion. Akurduana listened silently to the Black Emperor's revelation, recalling everything that had happened at the Venice Theatre. He thought of the former pride and glory of Emperor's children, which had now collectively fallen into ruin during a performance, as if their former glory was nothing more than a bubble that could burst at the slightest touch. Your decision to promote Lavas to guard was the right one. Nimrod knew that Lavas Cario was an outcast among the Emperor's children, even though he no longer identified with the Emperor and worshipped the Primarch. Fulgrim, but he always resisted the temptation of chaos. In the Battle of Kalayam Gate, he fought against Sheban of the White Scars. Khan during battle, Sheban was surprised to find that Lavaz's body showed no signs of mutation. But Eidolon dedicated Kornanos to the Keeper of Secrets, and many Slanesh. Devil has set his sights on Emperor's children. In the final, fateful showdown, he defeated Sheban, but discovered that the devil was about to corrupt him. He cried out, "Purity!" and chose to die by Sheban's blade. Open black lens bracket. I can still keep fighting Emperor's children. I want all the dual champions, the blade of Paratine, close black lens bracket. Nimrod knew that the Emperor's children worshipped and imitated the commander more than any other legion. The Palatine Blades are an independent organization separate from the legion's structure. Their members are elite swordsmen from the Emperor's children, and they are most skilled in dueling. They possess power commensurate with their titles, even transcending the orders of their lords commanders, and can decide for themselves to participate in battles and duel the most powerful enemies. Every Palatine Blade worships their champion, a Carduana. Nimrod pondered for a moment before asking the question, "Do you still want to stay with Fulgrim?" A Carduana remained silent for several seconds before speaking. "I will stay, but no longer to save my father, but for Emperor's children like Lavas. Some of them haven't seen the truth yet, and some are still struggling internally. I will lead them out of the corrupt legion. I will remember your warning and not anger my father or the devil who resides in the sword." Nimrod nodded slightly. He also needed a Carduana to remind Perturabo. "You have gathered all the blades of Paratine." As he spoke, a dark golden gem appeared in his palm. With a thought, he sent the gem flying towards a Carduana. A Carduana respectfully received the gem with both hands, immediately feeling the burning heat in his hands upon touching it. "Set it into the hilt of your sword. If you encounter chaos, infusing it with spirituality can help you resist the erosion." Nimrod bestowed upon a Carduana a mystical item made using the characteristics of the fallen, notary, Beander. Such mystical items are few and far between. He usually prioritizes adding auxiliary materials, preparing potions, and cultivating Beyonders. Moreover, Priest of Light is the only sequence 5 for which he still lacks potion ingredients. Sequence 6 is the highest sequence of the Sun pathway that he can cultivate. Beander. But a Carduana is, after all, in an increasingly depraved world of Emperor's children, so having a mystical item would be safer. "Thanks be to my lord." A Carduana carefully put the gem away and then continued to report. The World Eaters never arrived. Angron berated Khan and knocked him unconscious, then parachuted onto the ground. In the end, Ezekiel Abaddon led his troops to breach the palace of the Holy Song City, but did not find Garvil Loken. Another strange thing is that Warmaster once sent sons of Horus into the Siren Fortress to capture many civilians and bring them back. After listening to a Carduana's report, Nimrod gained a basic understanding of the Battle of Istvan III. Overall, the scale of the battle decreased significantly because he defeated most World Eaters and Emperor's children. The World Eaters were given an extra 30,000 men, significantly reducing their strength, but the rebels also suffered slightly fewer casualties. In his memory, Emperor's children suffered 20,000 casualties during the suppression of the rebels, and the entire army was reduced to 50,000 men. After he took away 24,930 people, the current Emperor's children number about 25,000 more than he remembered at the same time. Of course, a Carduana could take about 10,000 people with him. Open black lens bracket him. Overall, the rebels' strength has decreased somewhat, and most of them have become part of my forces. Close black lens bracket. After Nimrod returned a Carduana to Istvan, he was about to return to the real world when he suddenly heard a phantom prayer. He spread his spirituality, touching the ever-expanding and contracting sphere of spiritual light. He saw Zadkiel holding a huge chainsaw axe, a weapon that once belonged to Primarch. Greater than 969 Lorgar, Horus gave you the Abyss-class destroyers. I'm already awesome, I won't leave you a single one. In the 4th level of the Nation of Disorder, Nimrod, leaning against the throne, overlooks the Scions of the Quill, chapter master of the Word Bearers. Zadkiel, my lord. Zadkiel held up the chainsaw axe with both hands and offered it to the Black Emperor. The brass fang was once Angron's weapon, which he gave to his father as a symbol of our alliance. Nimrod knew that Lorgar Aurelian was one of the few Primarchs who genuinely cared about the Angrons, who were considered beasts, but he did so in his own way. He was just as self-absorbed as he had been when he spoke passionately and endlessly about his faith in the War Council and with other Primarchs. Angron's attitude toward Lorgar was second only to his loyalty to Horus. He would seriously consider his advice. My father gave it to me. Nimrod raised his hand, and a giant axe made of obsidian and brass fell into his grasp. His gears were forged from gleaming obsidian, and the axe handle was wrapped in ugly lizard skin. Nimrod knew that this brutal weapon was forged by Angron before he used the two chainsaw axes he now wielded, the Bloodfather and the Bloodson, and was a symbol of his ruthlessness. It once beheaded the Scandrain alien queen and also fought its way through the orcs of the destroyer King Parsifal. A savage world inhabited by the lunatic tribes once resisted the imperial truth, but upon seeing the brass fang in Angron's hand, it surrendered and submitted to Angron. Open black lens bracket Angron, if I were to use your axe to chop you down, close black lens bracket. As Nimrod pondered, a thought flashed through his mind, and the brass tooth vanished from his hand. My legion is waging a pacification campaign in Garrus. My father summoned me and ordered me to go to Thule, a satellite of our home planet, to receive a gift from Warmaster. He told me to bring the brass tooth to that gift. He ordered you to take over a brand new warship, whose firepower and other performance are even more powerful than the Gloriana class. In the entire Empire, only the Phalanx can compare. Open black lens bracket. Yes, of course, this doesn't take into account my awesomeness with Abaddon's Blackstone Fortress, close black lens bracket. Nimrod recalled that the brass fang was placed in the exhibit on the Fury Abyss and was eventually obtained by Sklar, the captain of the World Eaters who boarded the ship. He didn't believe Zadkiel's words at all, nor did he believe that Angron had betrayed the Emperor. As Nimrod pondered, Zadkiel's eyes shone brightly. He looked up at the Black Emperor, who sat high on the throne, his mind racing, before finally speaking. My lord, such a powerful warship should be offered to you as your flagship. I have seen your piety. Nimrod smiled slightly. I give it to you, and you will command it to carry out my will. Once you achieve Abyss rank, immediately proceed to colonize new district to support Chapter 6. Quote, originally, the Fury Abyss, commanded by Zadkiel, would have followed the orders of the Word-Bearers, first captain. Kor Farron ordered the use of cyclone torpedoes to destroy Makraga's satellite, Formaska. Even for an Abyss-class ship, attacking the Makraga's defensive laser cannon array would be tantamount to suicide. But the destruction of Formaska will trigger a massive asteroid storm. The defenders of Makrag will be forced to take action, while the Fury Abyss can use the wreckage as cover to bypass the early warning stations and satellites around Makrag and drop viral bombs on the Ultramarines, homeworld. However, the plan was disrupted when the Ultramarines and Space Wolves, along with the World Eaters and Thousand Suns, who were unaware of and did not believe in the Legion's defection, boarded the Fury Abyss together. Zadkiel was killed in battle with Cestus, the commander of the 7th Company of the Ultramarines, and the Fury Abyss was destroyed. The powerful Abyss, after sinking only a few warships, was itself sunk. This exposed a problem inherent in the Abyss class, or rather, in all capital ships. Due to insufficient mobility, frigate and destroyer are needed as escort fleets. The Scions of the Quill are skilled in void-based warfare, so they are naturally no match for the fierce allied forces. You must be careful to maintain the presence of the escort fleet. Zadkiel is the mentor of disorder, even more capable than remembered, and he currently commands 3 chapters. Thank you for your gift. Zadkiel's eyes shone as he thought about piloting a warship even more powerful than the Gloriana-class battleship, and his heart pounded with excitement. My lord has actually bestowed such a powerful warship upon me. He also gave me a divine decree. My opportunity to make a name for myself has come. My pen will write down my glorious achievements in colonies. His eyes burned with ambition. I will follow your will, make good use of the Abyss-class warships, and destroy all your enemies. Nimrod looked at Zadkiel, who was full of fighting spirit and eager to make a name for himself. The Abyss class was originally a gift from Kelberhal to Horus, but he gave it to Lorgar instead. It will be quite interesting when Horus discovers that it has been used against him. Nimrod's lips twitched as he imagined Horus's reaction. Open black lens bracket and Lorgar, I wonder how he will react if he finds out that Zadkiel has left with the warships, close black lens bracket. There are 3 Abyss-class ships. Nimrod had a sudden thought, could I get my hands on the other 2 as well? Well, although the 2 Abyss-class ships did not set sail immediately after the Fury Abyss set sail. However, immediately after the Abyss Fury set sail, Kelberhal ordered the destruction of the Thule shipyard to ensure absolute secrecy. Therefore, the other 2 Abyss-class ships must have been completed during this period, at least their main structures. Nimrod's eyes gleamed as his mind raced, trying to figure out how to acquire the other 2 Abyss-class ships. The power of Order Shadow and its allies, the combined forces of Emperor's Children and Death Guard, led by Lucius, flashed through his mind, and the plan in his mind gradually became clear. Once you arrive at the Thule shipyard, closely monitor the construction progress of the Abyss-class ships and pray to me constantly. Follow your will. After Zadkiel accepted the order, Nimrod sent him back to the real world, whereupon his spirituality spread and touched the deep green spiritual sphere. After confirming that Cain, the 5th company commander of the 4th chapter, was alone, he pulled him into the nation of disorder. My lord, gatekeeper, encased in iron cavalry Terminator armor, knelt on one knee. You shall immediately meet with the leader of the Hazen Chamber of Commerce, the Merchant Dynasty, and request that he arrange for you and the Shadow Guard to secretly infiltrate the Jupiter shipyard. The Hazen Chamber of Commerce is one of the largest chambers of commerce in the Empire, possessing numerous assets, particularly within the Sol system. In fact, prior to the Great Birthday celebration, the Hazen Chamber of Commerce controlled 1/10 of Terra's trade. Alpha successfully infiltrated Dornay's meticulously constructed Terra and Sol system defenses thanks to the widower Heliqua of the Hazen Chamber of Commerce. Within Terra's trading empire, bloodline is supreme. No matter how much an employee contributes, they can only receive rich rewards, but they have no chance of gaining real power. In order to gain the exclusive right to speak among blood relatives, Helicro married a woman from the direct line of the dynasty and became an adopted son-in-law of the Merchant Dynasty. He secretly collaborated with Alpha, helping them infiltrate Terra. The trading dynasties helped the Alphas obtain batch numbers and access codes for infiltrating the starport cargo locks. This information was the source of power for each family, stemming from ancient contracts between merchants and ports. Even the Sigillite and Primarch could not control this power. The Hazen Chamber of Commerce could do all this more easily from its headquarters in Jupiter, where the contracts they held were as old as the Adeptus Mechanicus, and countless laborer families had served them for generations. I also need them to mobilize the Jovian Grenadier to support our operations. In return, they will receive the Adeptus Mechanicus shipyard in Thule. Tell the leaders of the trading dynasty that there is no need to worry about Adeptus Mechanicus's retaliation, because the owner of the Thule shipyard, Fabricator General of Mars, Kelber Hal, has betrayed us. After hearing the Black Emperor's command, Cain respectfully obeyed. Follow your will. After sending Cain back to the real world, Nimrod leaned against the throne. Lorgar, I'm already so proud of the Abyss-class ships Horus gave you, I won't leave you a single one. After all, even if you have a good hand, you can still play it badly. Although the Thule shipyard was given to the Hazen Chamber of Commerce to win their support, I still want the data from the Thule shipyard and the many technologies lost in the destruction of Kelber Hal. Greater than 970, the vaults of Moravitz open, the Dark Mechanicum is born. Mars. Fabricator General, looking down from Kelber Hal, the massive forging complex of Mount Olympus stretches out of sight, with towering manufacturing plants, refineries, machine shops, assembly hangars, and workers' quarters covering nearly 10,000 square kilometers. Within the vast manufacturing hive, billions of tech priests rule over everything on Mars, from the forging masters to the planetary defense forces reserves. The largest building on the entire Mount Olympus is the Temple of Omniscience, a towering pyramidal structure built of pink and black marble. Its top consists of a dome made of shimmering blue rock and a steel spike tower that pierces the sky and continuously spews toxic fumes into the atmosphere. The temple's base is a vast door surrounded by numerous pilasters, the marble of which are inscribed with millions of mathematical formulas and proofs, many of which were discovered by Kelber Hal himself. He should have been proud of his unprecedented achievements. No one before him had discovered more technology than him, and his reign was the longest period of production quota growth in the entire long history of Adeptus Mechanicus. Kelber Hal's body, composed of 87.6% reinforced components, lacks pride and most other emotions. But he was still angry. Billions of believers have trodden furrows on the stone slabs of Omniscia Avenue. They hoped their prayers would attract the attention of the Omniscia and bring them blessings. Many of them believed that Omniscia was a real person, the golden figure who came to Mars 2 centuries ago. The false god enslaved Mars, Adeptus Mechanicus, with lies. Kelber Hal heard a burst of binary electricity from the black robot behind him. He turned around and looked at the 4 monks walking towards him on the disc. The black robot was a gift from Archmagos Lucas Crom to Kelber Hal several years ago. Once covered in skin, it was indistinguishable from a human. Crom's talent for automation and intelligence allows him to perfectly manufacture anything from metal and plastic. Besides Crom, the other 2 confidants were Melgator, who wore a dark robe symbolizing an ambassador, and Alts Malevalis, the master of Mundus Gamma. The last one was Regulus, who, before boarding the expeditionary fleet number 63, entrusted the forging city and all assets to Kelber Hal. Regulus bowed deeply, the metal numbers on the Adeptus Mechanicus icon on his robe clicking. Fabricator General, the current in your furnace flows through my limbs into the engine inside my body, nourishing my body. Regulus, thank you for respecting my foundry. Kelber Hal acknowledged the compliment and asked in binary language. Any news from Warmaster? Many things changed after the Emperor left the Great Crusade. New powers emerged from the shadows to aid those with vision. Horus Lupercal is now an ally of Adeptus Mechanicus, Regulus said. Within the Kelber Hal memory buffer, outer deities' pent-up resentment resurfaces. I've heard this before. More than 2 centuries ago, when Forticodia brought the ruler of the filthy human tribe to my foundry, I was forced to kneel before him. Tyrant promised us equal status in his great conquest. He promised all technology to belong to us. Where are his promises now? For centuries, Adeptus Mechanicus waged war against the barbaric tribes of Terra, with expeditions searching for precious ancient technological secrets. The Emperor possessed long-forgotten technology but was unwilling to share it with them. Mars, soldiers fought side by side with his warriors, only to end up with a false sense of equality. The Emperor proposed peace and equality, but secretly held the dagger of an ultimatum. Kelber Hal understood his underlying meaning. Join me, and I will only take what you need, or you will be destroyed. We supply war robots to the Emperor's army, and what has he given us in return? Can Horus give us more? Warmaster will give us true equality, Regulus said. He promised to withdraw all non-Adeptus Mechanicus forces from Forge World. He will purge Order Shadow's garrisons in Shana, Incaradian, High Valaria, and other Forge Worlds, including neighboring satellites and the Ramils-class Star Fort. These are indeed very good gifts, Kelber Hal said with satisfaction. What does the Warmaster need? As always, your questions hit the nail on the head like a cutting laser. The Warmaster needs you to ensure control of all of Mars, suppress all resistance forces, and ensure that his cause is not disturbed. Ambassador Melgator took a step forward, his chain-trimmed black cloak rustling against the smooth ground. Great Warmaster, praise his illustrious name, he has made many demands of us and we have fulfilled them. Weapons and supplies were prioritized for his favored expeditionary fleet, while delivery to those he disliked was delayed. We built the Abyss-class warship for him, the first ship to be equipped with the plasma lance. At the same time, images of massive, sword-shaped warships flashed through the minds of Kelber Hal, Jiao, and Malevalis. They even have fighter decks while possessing such powerful weapon systems. These are revolutionary warships, far superior to the Gloriana class and Imperial class. It is also equipped with psionic jamming devices, which, once deployed, can interfere with the sensory systems of enemy navigators. Now Warmaster has made an even bigger demand. We must start a real civil war. What will he give us in return? Crom was larger than Malevalis, and his broad-shouldered body was wrapped in a deep red robe. The tubes in his ribs and the cables that wrapped around his body connected to a hissing energy pack, like a pair of wings growing on his back. His human face had long been replaced by a toothy, skull-shaped iron mask with wires hanging from his chin and his eye sockets filled with pulsating red light. How can we believe that we've simply replaced one tyrant with another? Will Warmaster provide a standard template construct? We cannot simply turn away from the plan we have already begun, out of fear of the heat of the flames. Malevalis used bronze as his mask, with 3 green eyes embedded in it. His red robe was made of vulcanized rubber, thick and durable, and he carried a huge power pack on his back. His massive mechanical body was supported by suspension. Great rewards always come with great dangers. Regulus's robe-clad body swelled up slightly. What Warmaster gives us is more precious than standard template construct. It will lift the ban on all research into forbidden technologies, and all the shackles imposed by Tyrant will be removed. I have brought the instructions to open the vaults of Moravitz. I will open it as long as you agree to Warmaster's proposal. What if we don't approve? Kelber Hal asked. I will erase the method for opening the cellar from my memory, and the cellar will be sealed forever, Regulus replied. But you'll agree, won't you? That's right, Kelber Hal said. In the darkest vaulted hall beneath Mount Olympus, 4 figures descended through a maze of passageways. Numerous tunnels, filled with dust accumulated over 2 centuries of undisturbed activity, or scattered throughout the darkness, carved into the Mars bedrock. Regulus led them through a narrow passage, around a corner, and into a hall with a heavy echo, in front of which lay dozens of tunnels leading to the unknown. Regulus continued onward, choosing the 7th tunnel of the western wall to lead them through dusty tombs, empty cells, and secret chambers piled high with skulls. They walked through the open hall, where Kelber Hal saw dusty books, a collection of knowledge sealed in chains, and a rusty giant robot. This is the result of ignoring technology, and this is the inevitable consequence of Tyrant ordering the sealing of the vaults of Moravitz. Every time I look at it, I am certain that we are on the right path and that we should accept Warmaster's gift. Crom and Malevalis agreed, stating that their positioning matrix pinpointed the location to a depth of exactly 935 meters beneath Mars. Memories surfaced in Kelber Hal's mind. 2 centuries ago, he had walked this road with Tyrant. Tyrant ordered a ban on storing any root data to the vaults of Moravitz, but Kelberhal ignored his order and secretly activated the map-drawing memory cache function. But upon returning to the surface, they discovered that the cache had not recorded anything, as if nothing had happened. Adeptus Mechanicus will never delete any data, he said angrily to Tyrant. Tyrant shook his head. The vaults of Moravitz can never be opened. Kelberhal, swear to me. Of all the remote sensing and mapping equipment he dispatched to the tunnels over the past 2 centuries, none could find the vaults of Moravitz, as if the cellars had vanished. Now, he can finally savor the sweet victory of his rebellion against Tyrant. What kind of despicable person would forbid an organization whose mission is to protect technology from researching the mysteries of outer deity that could lead to a glorious future? Depriving something of its value is contrary to all natural and mechanical laws. Logic dictates that the vaults of Moravitz must be opened. We've arrived. Regulus's words brought Kelberhal back to reality from the memory cache. He found himself in a circular hall with a diameter of 130 meters. The hall was radiant, but he could not find any obvious light source. The walls of the hall are machine-polished rock, and their polished and reflective properties indicate that they are polished metal. In the center of the wall is a leaf-shaped arched door, with a numeric keypad and a dial on it. Regulus walked towards the great door. Moravik is called Warlock, did you know that? Ignorant people will mistake advanced technology for witchcraft, Malavalis said dismissively. Morawik was not only a man who was ahead of all humanity in terms of technological progress in his time, but he was also the leader of the Order of the Human-Machine Unity monastic order. The Human-Machine Unity order believes that a technological singularity is possible. They believe that technology can be used to create a consciousness far beyond that of humans, Crom said. I know that Omniscious arrival was the last prophecy he left before he disappeared, Melgator said. But he failed, Kelberhal said. He didn't fail, he succeeded, but that also put him in danger, Regulus said. Who did he threaten? Kelberhal asked. Your Majesty, Regulus said. He made a pact with ancient beings who are now allies of Warmaster. Moravik combined human science with primal forces to create a technology far more advanced than any furnace builder could have mastered. What type of technology? Kelberhal asked impatiently. Machines enhanced by the power of warp, technology unbound by the laws of nature, a great power that can reshape the world at your will. Open it, Kelberhal commanded. The instructions to open the cellar are complex, and you must listen carefully, Regulus said, releasing a series of binary codes and a chaotic, meaningless stream of technical data in a complex pattern. Kelberhal and his 2 companions listened carefully, etching the surging codes into their memory cache. Regulus spewed energy so fast that they could barely keep up, and so complex that their processing units were running at their limits. Despite the messy and complex encoding, Kelberhal noticed inconsistencies in the binary algorithm when loading the data structure. Deviations and errors appear in the code, hybridizing and transforming into a completely new and horrifying form that is twisted and unnatural. Scrap code. It roared within the ambient atmosphere sensing equipment of Kelberhal, beginning to infect other subsystems in the surrounding area. This code, it's been corrupted. It's not pollution, Regulus said. It breaks free from the shackles of human nature's laws, it exudes the fragrance of warp, it will open your senses and allow you to perceive the true form of the galaxy. It hurts, it's like fire, Crom said painfully. That's right, but only for a brief moment, Regulus said with a smile. You will be reborn. Kelberhal felt the scrap code invading his system like a virus, and neither the protective subroutines within his body nor the Aegis barrier could stop the infection. He could feel the darkness code drilling into his body. His small organic body trembled uncontrollably when touched by the scrap code, while his core was ecstatic about the experience. The 3 people's visual and auditory systems jittered and then went offline to adjust to the new reality they were observing. Static electricity blurred their vision, and an ocean farther away than they could imagine roared against their acoustic receptors. Their built-in Geiger counter detected an increase in radiation readings, but the form of radiation was one they had never seen before. He also couldn't definitively identify the multiple substances that their chromatographic analyzer detected in the air. As a series of secondary systems overloaded, a hazy mist leaked from their bodies. When their vision finally cleared, he saw that the great door leading to the vaults of Moravitz had been opened, radiating a magnificent, hazy light. Their newly awakened senses perceived the terrifying power of what was hidden in the cellar. Whispering energies beyond the real world were revealing long-forgotten mysteries. Can you feel it? This power? Regulus asked, his voice no longer a pure binary language of technology, but a beautiful, chaotic scrap code. I can feel it, Kelberhal said. I can feel it coursing through my system, like an elixir of immortality. Melgator's braided skull trembles, and the suspended skull of the child shines. We've been reborn. We are no longer Adeptus Mechanicus, we are Dark Mechanicum. As he spoke, Scrapcode transmitted information along trillions of kilometers of cables, spreading like wildfire through Mars' system. 971 Lord Nimrod has fewer than 100 shadow guards in the Sol system, how can he help us? The Scrapcode surging forth from the depths of Mount Olympus, like a predatory bird of prey, seeks any stream of information to devour. Like an assassin, Scrapcode infiltrates Mars' forging network, replicating itself at an exponential rate and identifying weaknesses in the data protection network. It ignites every link, causing catastrophic system failures and twisting everything it touches into something dirty and corrupt. The strange flashes and rhythms evoked by mechanical language, the vibrant data streams, and the shimmering light that evokes rich information emit a terrifying scream, becoming a deformed distortion. At the chemical refinery in Vasti Towers, north of Mount Olympus, Scrapcode twisted and opened the pressure valve door. A mixture of methyl isocyanate, phosgene, and hydrogen chloride flooded the water tanks used by workers in the Arctic basin. The deadly cloud of poisonous fog slowly seeped into the pool, killing every living soul. Every second, tens of thousands of people die. The Scrapcode then flooded into Medusa Fossa, distorting and altering the composition of the air that sustains breathing. Each psyker was injected with hydrogen cyanide gas, and within minutes, more than 6,000 psykers disappeared. The agonizing screams of death echoed above the Imperial dome. The dial tone of the Scrapcode intrusion suddenly sounded, and then the alert was instantly cancelled by the highest privileges. Abnormal current surged through the circuit like robots, and machine spirit emitted a piercing scream. The circuit could not withstand the heavy pressure and exploded, instantly destroying countless precision machines due to overload. The inhabitants of Mars are connected by the internet, but now they are bound by malicious shackles and await death. The same accidents have occurred countless times on the surface of this red planet, with robots exploding due to internal overload caused by conflicting instructions. The explosion at the forge would spill toxic chemicals into the storage facilities, and combined with a devastating chain of explosions, could result in a catastrophic event with hundreds of millions of deaths within minutes. Mount Arsia, the southernmost peak of Olympus, is a perpetually shrouded volcano. This extinct volcano was awakened by Archmagos Coral Zes, who built her magma city on its southern side, on the edge of the Daedalus Plain. An unstoppable torrent of Scrapcode surged forth, crashing into the defensive line constructed of shimmering gold threads, and then, like positively charged iron filings flowing around a magnet, it brushed past Magma City. Magma City's spacious lobby is practical, with materials processed in a smooth and elegant manner to create precise geometric shapes. Archmagos Archon Land wore a golden helmet, his consciousness immersed in a thought space. Ms. Corey, your amazing creation is truly admirable. Coral also wore a golden helmet, and compared to the Mars monks, she looked more like a female warrior. Like Archon, she possessed a natural physique, her slender body encased in bronze armor that accentuated her curves. Her voice echoed in my mind, few people are fortunate enough to receive your praise, and I am honored by it. But I must say that my research is not entirely original. I was taught by Keys Archmagos and it is based on the work of Laszlo Archmagos. Archon knew that Laszlo Archmagos was an antiquities explorer, sage and hunter, who had made several trips to Terra in the years before the signing of the Treaty of Olympia in search of ancient technological relics. Laszlo discovered a massive burial complex within the Kebira crater of the Gehemia. His discoveries enhanced Mars' understanding of energy transfer, atomic rearrangement, and chemical engineering, and most importantly, they concerned methods of human cognition and conscious communication. The wireless information technology thinking space developed by Coral and Coral's most important research project to date, the Akashic Reader, were both based on their achievements. Don't forget, I'm also an archaeologist, Archon said. My achievements, such as the land speeders and the Rand main battle tank, also come from archaeological discoveries. I am honored to be able to revive the glory of Omniscia. Through the purest form of conscious communication, Corey sensed the vibrant sparks of Archon's thoughts. Archon, me too. You still have the leisure to discuss technology and praise each other. Ipluvine Maxima's consciousness released anger. I can now confirm that the attack on my main reactor was orchestrated by the Fabricator General at the behest of the Dead Skull Titan Legion. The Storm Titan Legion depends on its energy output, and Legio Mortis hopes to destroy it and weaken the enemy legion. At the Tower Conference, when Legio Mortis's leader, Camulos, roared in denial of the accusations, I had no evidence and believed he had only orchestrated the attack but had not directly dispatched the divine machines. Now it has been proven that my trust was a mistake. The infection started spreading from Fabricator General's furnace. I tried to communicate with him, but each time I was met with a firm refusal. Kane, the deputy director of Foundry, said. Please forgive me, it took some time to organize the code cleanup and data migration, he said after apologizing. I now have to believe that Arkan has told us the terrible truth. The Warmaster has betrayed us, and Kelberhal has fallen into darkness. Arkan, thank you for the reminder. Coral, thank you for generously sharing your mental space. Tycho Brahe's Sage's thoughts were filled with the joy of escaping disaster. My assets were preserved. In this dark moment, I have some good news to report to you, said Sage, the guardian of the Schiaparelli Great Treasury in the Ascaria Plains, excitedly. Our 2,000-year-old data treasure trove includes data from the earliest periods of humankind and the wisdom accumulated from various eras, which have been preserved. All of this is thanks to Arkan and Corey. The stirring of thoughts ignited applause, which echoed throughout the space of thought. Arkan watched as one sage after another was saved for their assets, paying him the highest respect and deepest gratitude. He was no longer the rejected and the outcast. The majestic figure of the Black Emperor, towering deep within the black mist, flashed through his mind. Everything depends on the revelation of Omniscia. Praise Omniscia, the sages exclaimed in unison. Having calmed her thoughts, Maxima Sage said, we should immediately report to the Sigillite and tell them about Mars' atrocities. No, Arkan denied. The Sigillite can't be relied on. After learning of the betrayal of the 16th, Primarch VII has mobilized all the forces at his disposal. 1/3 of the 7th Legion's strength was used to form the punishment fleet. What kind of assistance can we get from them? Can a few companies of modified warriors withstand Fabricator General's army and divine machines? You mean we can only sit and wait to die? Maxima roared. Of course not, Lord Nimrod, he will help us. What? Kane asked, puzzled. Lord Nimrod has fewer than 100 shadow guards in the Sol system. How can he help us? 972 The last moment before the destruction of 5.2 billion tons of armament. At the foot of Mount Olympus, Fabricator General Kelberhal watched as a squad of machine god Praetorian Guard soldiers emerged from the vaults of Moravitz. His servants were burly men clad in layers of armor, their muscles blackened like charcoal, their backs covered in spikes. They moved in unison through the crackling energy field, and Kelberhal's new senses were able to capture a primal power that transcended the physical and was unrestrained. The person without a mouth babbles incoherently using assistive machinery, chanting hymns of Mars' new power in a completely new language called scrapcode. They wore etched bronze masks and glared cruelly at their surroundings. Regulus walked up to Kelberhal and said, congratulations, the magnificent fusion of warp and mechanical power has blossomed into a brand new look. Taiwanese novel website ttf.tw is super user-friendly and accompanies your reading. Kelberhal nodded in acceptance of the compliment, then looked at Lucas Crom. Lucas did most of the work, his Kaban robots combined with the power of the vaults of Moravitz to create something wonderful. They're just getting started. Next, they'll begin the Skitarii conversion work. Scrapicode has spread throughout Mars' network, but not all forges are immune. Corey Zess created a completely new form of data transmission, which she and her allies adopted as a replacement for traditional forms of communication. 1. Then, our enemy has been identified, Regulus said. I will give her another chance. Her Akashic records will help my and Warmaster's great cause. Melgator, you must immediately proceed to Magma City and ascertain Zess's inclinations. As for those who refuse enlightenment, they must be purified. Kelberhal looked toward his 9-door disciples who had just emerged from the vaults of Moravitz. The false Omniscia came before me, deceiving us with promises and making us his slaves. He replaced the binary code with a new scrapcode language, saying, we have broken free of his shackles, we must purify Mars. We must eliminate all those infected and free ourselves from his suffocating control. Destroy the enemy's foundries and burn their rebel strongholds. Kelberhal looked at Sitaur Nur, the leader of the 9 Doors, and said, Schiaparelli's knowledge must be rebaptized. He then looked at his second disciple, Adam Protos, and said, Tycho Brahe's ammunition depot must be destroyed. Quote. In the 12th hour of Mars, spread, a deep roar suddenly resounded in the region of Tycho Brahe. 300 maglev trains arrived along the transportation network, unloading 40 Skitarii from each train. Darkness. The Skitari's spiked armor changed color from Mars red to black. Their altered bodies, already fixed in place, became swollen and ugly. They raised their abominable weapons, both to kill Fabricator General's enemies and to unleash the abnormal energy that tormented their mutilated bodies. Adam Protos's mechanical tentacles gleamed eerily, and the skull clinging to his back unleashed a terrifying beam of energy, striking the highest priority target identified, the command relay station of cybernetic automata. The energy beam rippled with ominous light, screaming like a banshee, and engulfed the relay station. The charred ash drifted in the wind, pattering onto the surrounding cybernetic automata. The offline control logic caused Vorax-type cybernetic automata to crash. As soon as they activated their mechanical combat instincts with embedded control logic, the nightmare energy-modified warrior pulled the trigger, unleashing a fierce barrage of fire upon them. The distorted energy beam struck the mechanical body, tearing hundreds of Vorax-type cybernetic automata to shreds. Protos strode forward, constantly reciting the scrapcode language his mentor had taught him. One after another, Volax-type cybernetic automata emitted twisted screams, their machine spirits twisted, hating everything around them. They turned their guns around, driven by a logic of hatred, and launched volleys of fire in all directions. Boom boom boom. Large numbers of cybernetic automata were shot down, their attempts to turn their guns around in vain failing, yet the sensors failed to identify friendly forces as enemies. Protoss stared at the cybernetic automata, which had no independent thought and was unable to cope with the sudden changes. His logic engine leapt up a series of joyful and proud lines of code. Open black lens bracket. The mentor's choice was correct, he brought us new life. Close black lens bracket. He liberated us. Whoosh whoosh. A barrage of missiles trailing trails of flame shot forth, crashing into darkness. Within Skitari's ranks, a dozen modified warriors were blown to pieces. Protos raised his arm, and a series of irregular, arrhythmic technical languages surged from his internal enhancer. His skull cane made a piercing sound, and the missile launch platforms on the city wall shut down one after another as the scrapcode spread. Protos switched to binary language and spoke to the city wall. Yahoo, I am acting on the orders of the Fabricator General to purify the traitor. You're using dirty scrapcode, Sage said with disgust. These monsters you brought before me are hybrids of flesh and robots, more terrifying than the savages that roam the Pale Plains. All the beauty of Adeptus Mechanicus has been turned into darkness by you, and what terrifies me even more is that you cannot see it. Protoss shook his head. These are pure codes, they existed before they were tamed and bound to the body. He spat out a scrapcode, and the modified warriors in the front row formed a shield-shaped array and advanced forward. Their hideous bodies are not like those of ordinary Skitari, which are enhanced solely by genetics. Their bodies shimmered, and red light surged through their veins, as if electricity was flowing through them. Darkness Skitari swung his weapon with a crackling sound, releasing ominous ripples. Boom boom boom. The city wall trembled, cracking with ominous black lines. Sage's body pressed against the scepter as he looked up at the sky. Burning wreckage streaked across the lightning-filled sky and crashed to the ground, charred corpses spilling from the broken hull. He examines the space of thought. Open black lens bracket. While evading a low-orbit frigate attack, the engine of the mechanical glory was destroyed, and it has already crashed. Close black lens bracket. The data temple crashed in the Satonia Mansa region, killing millions of kilometers of land and 400 million monks in the explosion. Close black lens bracket. The factions of the Emperor and Warmaster clashed with each other, unleashing devastating broadside cannon fire. Omniscious furious roar ravaged Mars, drowning out the calls to Omnicia. Archon told us that Lord Nimrod would send a warrior to help us. Whether it's true or not, it's too late. He opened the sub-network of his mind space and issued orders to his tech priests and servitors. Initiate self-destruct procedure and ignite the Prometheum tank. I will detonate the entire medicine depot and bury the volcano along with all the corrupt traitors. Crimson warning runes echoed throughout the Tycho Brahe region, and the countdown to the destruction of the Omnicia number 12 began to be chanted. 3. Streams of information shot from the thought space into Sage's embedded interactive device. 2. Sage suddenly looked up at the sky. Streaks of purple light pierced through the smoke and shot towards them at high speed. As 5.2 billion tons of ordnance were about to turn to ashes, Sage gave the order, terminate the self-destruct sequence. Greater than 973. They also knew Lord Nimrod would offer help. Lord Nimrod foresaw everything that was about to happen. Purple mechanical lightning hurtled down, hovering in midair above Tycho Brahe. The combat motorcycle's multi-barreled molten lava cannon spewed forth torrents of molten flames, engulfing darkness. Skitari's spiked armor. As the dust settled, Darkness Skitari was divided into separate, independent positions. Land speeders swooped down, crashing into the Darkness Mechanical Army's lines like noble Terra Knights riding warhorses. Sage Adam Protos of Dark Mechanicum raises his skull staff and spews out a string of scrapcode. The combat motorcycles that were speeding past on both sides suddenly came to a stop, as if they had braked suddenly. Immediately, the combat motorcycle roared to life. The machine spirit of the military system severed its connection with the system that created it the instant the scrapcode intruded. Emperor's children. Protos's gaze swept over them, and the purple-gold warrior, with a trail of flames trailing behind his backpack, descended from the sky. Vespasian. Bang! Vespasian crashed to the ground, glancing around at the blasphemous creations. Their tall stature was not much shorter than Astarte's. A crackling sound came from inside his body, as if an electric current was being projected out. They were a combination of flesh and machine, and the stench they exuded reminded him of the depraved emperor's children. Vespasian opened the communication channel and gave the order to the honor guard members, Maru Scala battle formation, open your blades. Emperor's children, view war as a necessary means to achieve perfection. They strive to master every imperial tactic, make systematic adjustments according to specific circumstances, and then execute it perfectly under orderly command. Of all the formations and tactics, their favorite was to achieve a perfect victory using the Maju Scala method. This originates from the most legendary and difficult move to learn in the Europa dueling style, which was recruited by Legion veterans before Primarch's return. It means, deadly strike. Maru Scala requires duelists to seize the opportunity precisely, break through their opponent with swift footwork, and then paralyze their fighting ability with a single move. This combat ritual has two variations, one with the blade exposed and the other with the blade concealed. The emphasis is on rapid maneuverability when sharpening the blade. Lord Commander's honor guard activated his jump pack, soaring into the air with a trail of flames. They all raised their bolt pistols and fired at the gray armor. Diamond warheads traced perfect arcs as they struck the shield-shaped formation. With a deafening roar, the gray-spiked armor was blasted into pieces. The honor guard members landed the instant the breach was exposed, their swords whirling and sweeping across both sides. Darkness Skitari's thick shield-shaped formation was instantly torn apart by the sharpened blade of Maru Scala. Vespasian leapt down, his gleaming blade slicing through the spikes with a hissing sound. The disruption field of the finely crafted power sword tore through the tough, reinforced body, slashing at the pulsating red veins. He disgustedly brandished his sword, tearing apart the flesh and blood of the man resembling the slippery body of a Roman, before striding forward toward his next target. As Vespasian looked around, he saw streaks of purple-gold figures moving with unprecedented speed, rushing towards the blasphemous creation and unleashing their fierce fury. They longed to punish the traitor. Lucius's suggestion is correct, we are warriors, not messengers. As Vespasian pondered, he suddenly saw a figure in a tattered robe quietly retreating. He leapt up and charged toward the traitor who held the twisted scepter. A crimson light flashed from the mechanical tentacles on Protos's back as he saw the Vespasian, clad in magnificent armor, charging toward him. Protos raised his skull staff and aimed it at his magnetic train. The maglev train trembled like writhing flesh, its long, black spikes, crackling with electricity and emitting terrifying roars, raining down on the Vespasian. Vespasian swung his sword at the oncoming black spikes, but just before they collided, the spikes suddenly exploded. Boom! Vespasian's magnificent armor was blasted black, and his body flew backward. He bent his knees and pressed down, dragging the powered backpack to stabilize himself amidst the shockwave. Vespasian swayed from side to side, with black spikes grazing past him. Boom boom boom. As the smoke cleared, Vespasian gazed into the distance. The eerie train roared and spewed black smoke as it sped away. Sir, shall we pursue them? The captain of the guard hovered beside him and asked. No. Our main objective is Tycho Brahe's ammunition depot. We need armaments as weapons to combat traitors, said Lord Commander. As he spoke, he turned on the high-frequency communication channel to review the briefings from the various companies under his command. The 14th Company raided the Ismenius Lacus region, thwarting a traitor's plan to release missiles carrying the Life-Eater virus, thus saving 12 million lives at Lo and Venus's foundry. The 19th Company launched a surprise attack on the mountains and caves surrounding the Cassini crater, successfully seizing the traitor's atomic launch silos, preventing the launch of 100 missiles, and thwarting the traitor's plan to bomb the Ahotep Sage engine manufacturing plant. The 23rd Company's flight formation destroyed the highway connecting the South Nochus region to the Dosibius region, delaying the Magna Titan Legion's advance toward Matthias Kepher Sage's foundry. The Solar Auxilia's largest weapons factory survived. Close black lens bracket. After reviewing all the combat information, Vespasian immediately opened the command channel and issued orders. The 28th Company, marked Magna Titan Legion. The tech marine of the 26th Company immediately sought the help of Sage Akotep to launch missiles and blow the traitorous Titan to pieces. After issuing a series of battle orders, Vespasian walked toward the city wall. I am Jacob. Sage raised his scepter of identity. Jacob recalled the words of Archon Land, who had doubted the truth of Archmagus's words. But now, the unexpected arrival of Emperor's children has made him start to believe. Archon told them that the Fulgrim had betrayed the Empire. Jacob looked at the purple-gold armored warrior and said, Tycho Brahe thanks you for your help. Are you here to help us on Lord Nimrod's orders? Vespasian paused, open black lens bracket. They knew Lord Nimrod would offer help, close black lens bracket. Vespasian recalled what Lucius had told them when their fleet passed through the Mars fleet, which was firing at each other. I was able to lead you away from the evil plans of Warmaster, my father, Mortarion, and others, all thanks to Lord Nimrod. It was also his order to go to Mars and help the Loyalists amidst a division and war. Vespasian thought to himself as he pondered this. The strategic goals that Lucius told me also came from Lord Nimrod. Could Lord Nimrod possess psychic precognitive abilities, foreseeing today's situation? Vespasian gathered his thoughts. That's right, we are here on Lord Nimrod's orders to provide you with assistance. I will provide you with all the weapons I possess, as long as they can strike Fabricator General and his followers, Jacob said hatefully. Vespasian's communicator beeped, and he spoke after listening to the report. Of course. He pointed into the distance. Jacob looked in the direction he was pointing and saw missiles streaking past, trailing trails of flame. Matthias Kevlar's voice reached Corey Zess's mind through his mental space. The Magna Titan Legion is destroyed. Omniscious fury tore apart the traitorous divine machine. I helped Emperor's children set the targets, Sage's voice rang out. Omnicia above, what is that? Sage, the guardian of the Schiaparelli Great Treasury, suddenly rang out. Greater than 974 Dorn. I will risk the safety of the Sol system and the life of the Imperial Fist bonus chapter for monthly ticket event. The towering pyramid tower stands on the plain of Ascaria, and the Schiaparelli Treasury is Mars' greatest repository of knowledge, recording the wisdom of every era since the birth of science. At the top of the pyramid-shaped tower, a strange machine appears at the edge of Sage's line of sight as he gazes into the distance. They resembled giant mechanical spiders, composed of bizarre metal and flesh, as well as something Sage couldn't comprehend. It's not machine spirit, nor any similar program, nor even aversion to intelligence. Blasphemy! Guardian Sage cried out in disgust. Whatever it is, the Twilight Raiders will hold the line. Nathaniel Garro, former commander of the 7th Company of the Death Guard, walked up to him. Just like we repelled them last time. All you have to do is back up all your knowledge as soon as possible. I checked the latest backup speed. It will take 5 days, 12 hours, and 33 minutes, Guardian Sage replied. We will hold the line, Nathaniel said, and walked down the narrow passage of the tower. His gaze swept across the fallen army of Adeptus Mechanicus, then settled on Kelber Hal, who was clad in a heavy, net-like robe. Door disciple. So Tower Noor's optical organs also sensed Nathaniel's presence. Her head, covered in gilded circuitry, rose into the shadow of her heavy hood. Her drooping human chin hung like an appendage on the metal skull, the muscles of her dead face long since atrophied, hanging loosely on her abandoned face. Her crooked mouth was connected to a wavy pipe, and her metal lungs emitted a cold, venomous hiss through the air grill. Nathaniel Garro, your death is near, and so is the death of this pyramid tower. She then uttered a 72-bit scrapcode, and the new generation of war engines forged from the crystallization of ancient knowledge of the vaults of Moravitz began to move. The massive stalker fired volleys of laser beams, bombarding the Twilight Raider positions at the foot of the tower. Crackling sound. Most of the beams were deflected instantly upon hitting the blue force field, but one beam exploded out a strange ripple. Ripples spread out in waves, tearing open a corner of the shield before rapidly expanding. Twilight Raiders felt the slippery tentacles climb up his gauntlet, spreading along his arm, and in an instant his arm was frozen stiff. He tossed aside the strangely broken storm shield in his hand, glanced at the irregularly dented fragments that had been gnawed at, and then took the spare shield from the servant beside him. Fire coverage. Nathaniel's voice rang out on the high-frequency communication channel. Beams of plasma shot out from the firepower line behind the shield wall, engulfing the spider-like behemoths in the front row. After firing a salvo, they did not continue firing. They put down the plasma gun that was spewing steam plumes and then switched to a second plasma gun, firing a second round of plasma beams. Each Twilight Raider has 4 plasma guns, 1 incendiary gun, and a portable missile launcher beside them. The armaments delivered by Tycho Brahe's ammunition depot gave them unprecedented firepower. One bright sun after another rose above the mechanical spider lines, tearing apart their swollen metal shells and detonating the chaotic energy within them. The spider hunter's body disintegrated from the inside out, and the spiked components flew away with screams, as if there were thousands of wraith howls. Noor held aloft one of the many mechanical hands, the disfigured sage scepter, which emitted an eerie black glow. Her breathing grill emitted a series of blasphemous scrap codes, and the hunters beside her pounced into the ruins like sharks smelling blood. They roared from their tails, spitting out fleshy tongues that whipped up bits of debris. The invisible psionic tendrils swayed, absorbing the angry howling energy. The fleshy tongue, carrying food, retracts into the body. The swollen body creaked and groaned, the seemingly fixed mechanical abdomen had expanded slightly. With each breath, a dozen or so hunters exploded in the plasma jet, while their bodies grew larger and larger. The laser beams flickered with an ominous crimson light, their diameter expanding continuously, accompanied by supernatural shrieks and roars, as they slammed into the shield walls of the Twilight Raiders. Boom! Several crimson beams of light engulfed the blue ripples, violently tearing apart pieces of the storm shield. Amidst the exploding debris, the arm of a Twilight Raider is swallowed by a supernatural rift created by the explosion. Another Twilight Raider's brand new Mark IV power armor was torn open, its chest appearing to have been ripped open by claws. Excited chewing sounds suddenly rang in the ears of the Twilight Raiders, as something devoured flesh with relish. The Unbroken. Nathaniel's voice came from the front of the line, as he wore the brand new Iron Cavalry Terminator armor. The armor lacks the green trim of Death Guard, and is an old-fashioned marble white, with a bright, deep red painted on the right arm and shoulders. The decoration on his breastplate was not the double-headed eagle, the symbol of the Imperium of man, but a single-headed eagle with outstretched wings, made of brass. Another eagle is on the back of the breastplate, extending from the shoulder is a tiger's head, and is worn on the backpack of the armor. The Unbroken. The Terra-born veterans were the first to respond to their company commander, shouting the name Mortarion used to address each other before returning to the Legion, their eyes fixed on the armor symbols. They are the Emperor's crimson right hand, merciless and invincible. Nathaniel raised the snake-head-shaped missile launcher and aimed it at a giant spider-like machine. The cataphractii Terminator trembled slightly, and 4 portable missile launchers fired simultaneously, whistling as they struck the spider's round abdomen. Boom! The spider construct crashed to the ground, its 4 massive mechanical legs paddling as it tried to stand up. Nathaniel drew his finely crafted power sword, Libertas, and pressed the runes. His Honor Guard members activated their power swords, the blue glow illuminating the cataphractii Terminator as missiles whistled overhead. The light shone on Nathaniel as if twilight were falling on the earth. His legs were swift and powerful, as if mechanical prosthetics were completely integrated into his body, as strong as his flesh and blood. Nathaniel took a long run up, swung the Libertas sword, and slashed hard at the spider giant whose inverted mechanical limbs supported its massive body. Crack! With a loud bang, the mechanical limbs broke and the machine tipped over. Nathaniel swung the Libertas sword overhead, the swirling blue light slicing across the giant spider's abdomen and cutting a wide gash in its mechanical body. The blade of Libertas' sword sliced through the swollen body, reaching the giant spider's abdomen. Nathaniel placed his left hand on the back of his right gauntlet and pushed hard. The Libertas sword flashed blue as it plunged deep into the swollen abdomen. Boom! With a loud bang, countless roars rang in Nathaniel's ears. He abruptly drew the sword Libertas, then left his shattered, swollen body and strode toward another fallen creation. At the same time that Nathaniel led his men to resist the Devil Engine army that appeared in human sight for the first time, in the observatory in the northeast corner of the Terra Imperial Palace. Malcador, dressed in a simple Department of Internal Affairs robe and wearing a loose cloak, spoke to another person in the room. Ipruvian Maxima Sage contacted me every day for 12 consecutive days to recount the atrocities that occurred on Mars. But in the last 3 days, his contact frequency has become less and less frequent. In the last 11 hours, I have not received any messages from him. I have ordered the destruction of all data connections with Mars. The destroyers destroyed the data modules, killed the fallen priest, and thwarted the malicious code's attempt to infiltrate the palace, asked Roger Dorn, a Terra Guardian clad in golden armor, in a deep voice. Was he loyal to the Emperor? Although Maxima has a penchant for exaggerating facts, I can be certain of his loyalty to the Emperor, the Sigillite said. I once thought Horus would never betray his father, Dorn said. I don't even know how many brothers I can trust anymore. Nimrod is feared by Horus, and they are potential competitors. I believe he will not betray his father. Malcador nodded, recalling the scene where he had performed the Necromunda divination for Nimrod in this very place. He won't, even if he's judged in Nicaea. Even Leman Russ couldn't, although he made a mistake. Neither the Emperor nor I gave the order to destroy Magnus, nor should he have offered the Codex Omega to Horus. The Sigillite, you know perfectly well, Horus is the mastermind, Dorn said. I have already dispatched 1/3 of the Legion's warships to form a punitive fleet, which leaves me without sufficient power to take action. I must admit that I do not have enough power to extinguish the civil war in Mars right now. The Imperial Fists have always been one of the most powerful fleets among the many legions, possessing 1,500 void ships. In terms of both quantity and quality, only Order Shadow can compare. Even a third of the warships numbered as many as 500, exceeding many other Astartes legion. We must take action, Malcador suggested. Yes, obviously. Dorn's rock-like voice emanated a chilling coldness. We must consider the possibility of failure for the counterinsurgency fleet, although at present I do not see the possibility of failure. The 7 legions should be able to annihilate the 4 rebel legions. But we must still consider that war will not be smooth sailing, and we need all our weapons and advantages to protect the Imperium of man that we built with blood. The Sigillite nodded. I should tell you, Mundus Oculum and Mundus Gamma have a complete new power armor production line, which was originally intended to provide new armor for all frontline Astartes legion. Moreover, Cain has an armored prototype and data that are not yet finalized, located in the forged temple of Mundus Oculum. I understand, Dorn said, making his decision. I will risk the safety of the Sol system and the lives of the Imperial Fist so that we can win this war in the future. I will organize 4 companies and issue orders to Jupiter and Saturn. Malcador nodded. He knew this was the maximum force Dorn could muster, and he was even forced to abandon part of his carefully constructed defensive line. Dorne has begun recruiting conscripts to replenish his legions, but this does little to help the current situation. I can provide you with 30 Imperial Guards. The fleet of loyalists of the Death Guard and Emperor's children flew toward Mars. They should be able to help us. Dorn shook his head. The Fulgrim and Mortarion betrayed the Empire. Their offspring are not trustworthy. 975 Kelber-Hal's betrayal. You are the new Fabricator General of Adeptus Mechanicus. Open black lens bracket at this point. I hope readers will remember our domain name. twkcon.com. Read Taiwanese novels. Super smooth close black lens bracket. Jupiter, the commercial building of the Hazen Chamber of Commerce, a trading dynasty. Chief Hazen sat on a jeweled throne carved from golden Nanmu wood and inlaid with 190 gemstones of various colors from different worlds. Blood-red rubies, magnificent amethysts. He twirled the golden scepter, looked down at Order Shadow clad in black armor, and asked with a smile. Kyan, welcome to our visit. What are your orders, Lord Nimrod? Chief Hazen. Kyan, clad in black armor, exuded an icy aura. I need you to get me and the Shadow Guards into Thule's shipyard. Seeing that Chief Hazen remained silent, he quietly activated Spirit Vision. Chief Hazen's mind was filled with blue thoughts, while gray doubts lingered in his heart. You will gain access to Thule's shipbuilding facilities. With them, the Hazen Chamber of Commerce will be able to build more powerful void ships, leaving other trading dynasties far behind. This is a tempting apple, but it's full of poison, Chief Hazen said slowly. It is an asset of Kelber-Hal, and the consequences of angering Fabricator General should be seriously considered even by Lord Nimrod. The Warmaster has betrayed the Emperor, and Kelber-Hal has sided with him. Kyan said, taking a data slate bestowed upon him by the Black Emperor from his waist. He walked to the cogitator, connected the data interface, and projected a holographic image. I am Arkan Land. Fabricator General has betrayed the Empire. He has released scrapcode to attack information networks. He also sent fallen doors to command blasphemous creatures to attack many areas, including the Gubra ammunition factory. We need the help of the Hazen Chamber of Commerce. Chief Hazen's eyes shone as he watched the holographic image. Kelber-Hal has betrayed the Empire, and I will follow Lord Nimrod to fight the traitor. We need the strength of the Jovian Grenadier, Kyan said. I have just received a message from Lord Dorne that I will dispatch 5,000 warriors to be under the command of the Terra Guard, and 52,000 will be under the command of Lord Nimrod. Chief Hazen declares his stance to Order Shadow, Warmaster instigates a rebellion, and the political landscape of Terra will undergo subtle changes. To gain more power in the future empire, one must win the trust and support of Lord Nimrod. Open black lens bracket. Fortunately, after reading Shadow King, I made a decision. Realizing that Lord Nimrod was not a bloodthirsty ruler, I decided to side with him in the Council of Nicaea. Close black lens bracket. At the same moment that Kyan and the Shadow Guard infiltrated the Thule shipyard using batch numbers and secret passes arranged by the Hazen Chamber of Commerce, Lucius's Stormbird flew into Mundus Oculum, located hundreds of kilometers northeast of Alsaus. Zagreus Kane's foundry, situated between the semicircular mountain ranges of Schloniers and Tower Sith, is a gem among the many foundries in the entire region north of Olympus. Mundus Oculum was Mars' most valuable and highest producing factory, even larger than the Olympus Forza assembly plant. Looking across Mars, only Lucas Crom's Mundus Gamma facility is comparable in size to Kane's forge, but even his forge cannot match the output of Mundus Oculum. The entire foundry's industrial complex is dedicated to serving specific warriors, Astartes. The power armor is meticulously forged on the anvil of master forgers and undergoes the highest level of calibration and adjustment. Bolter, missile launchers, and laser cannons took shape in the brightly lit Mondu's hall. Armored vehicles such as the Sakaran tank roll off the assembly line. Mundus Oculum is also a place where the warriors, a legion with technical talent, research how robots operate under the guidance of Sage. Cain personally trained Gebrin of the Iron Hands, Kyle of the Salamanders, and Paulanin of the Ultramarines. Guided by the communication base station, Stormbird landed slowly, and Lucius stepped off the deck. Welcome, loyal Emperor's children. Cain's body was not as large and bulky as most Mars monks. He wore a simple red robe with the gear symbol of Adeptus Mechanicus embroidered in gold thread. His face was predominantly human, with short hair, delicate cheekbones, and a hooked nose remarkably similar to those of the Emperor's children, European nobles. You have proven your loyalty to the Empire. The assets of Sage, such as Loan Venus, Ahotep, Matthias Kefra, etc., have survived because of you. You destroyed Magna's treacherous machine. Lucius enters the first level of Thelima's mental state, suppressing his fighting desire to draw his sword and rush to the battlefield. The Black Emperor's oracle must be fulfilled. Dear Deputy Director of Foundry, we have achieved some victories, but the situation remains far from optimistic. Every hour, Astartes are sacrificed. 1. As they talked, they walked forward side by side. Although Lucius was far below Adeptus Mechanicus, who was the Deputy Director of Casting, he was the commander of the Astartes, reinforcements and received courtesy from Cain. I will provide you with all the support I can, and all the resources of Mundus Oculum will be at your disposal, Cain promised. He led Lucius to the viewpoint of Forge Temple, overlooking the roaring furnace below. The Forge Temple currently contains 12,000 Mark IV power armor suits and weapons capable of arming twice the number of Astartes. There is also a brand new, yet unnamed, powered armor that has superior agility compared to previous models. I think Emperor's children will love this new armor. He knew that while the Emperor's children did not pursue extreme speed like the White Scars, nor favor infiltration warfare like the Raven Guard, they pursued flexibility and efficiency, striving to make full use of mobility and gain the upper hand before the enemy could react. It employs a dual technology circuit, which can easily replace rare or complex components with more common or basic alternatives without any degradation in protection or performance. Its cables are all hidden under ceramic armor plates, including newer and heavier leg sheaths. To date, my Forged Temple has 3,946 sets of new power armor that have been tested and perfected. Lucius nodded. We need these armors to fight against Fabricator General's army. He recalled the Black Emperor's oracle. As I said before, we cannot hold out forever. Therefore, you must transfer more important assets. You mean the standard template construct and data for the new armor? Cain said. Not only that, but also the prototype armor in your Forged Temple. Upon hearing Lucius's words, Cain couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. How did you know? This is a secret known only to Fabricator General, Warmaster, and the Sigillite. Lord Nimrod gave me revelation. Open black lens bracket Nimrod. How did he know? Close black lens bracket. Cain recalled that many Mars monks believed Nimrod was favored by Omniscia. He found many holy templates under the light of Omniscia. Open black lens bracket. Could Nimrod truly be a follower of Omniscia? Close black lens bracket. Cain realized that the Dead Skull Legion had already launched an attack on Maxima's main reactor, clearly indicating that Mars' greatest military force had now taken a stand against them. I agree. Lucius completed 4 important tasks from the Black Emperor's oracle: the prototype armor, the new power armor standard template construct and the new armor, and the Mark IV power armor. Following the Black Emperor's orders, he offered Cain one last piece of advice: you should leave with us. Kelber Hal has betrayed us, and you are now the new Fabricator General of Adeptus Mechanicus. You should lead the Loyalists and continue to serve the Empire. No, Cain said resolutely, I will never leave my foundry. I will not flee Mars, I will live and die with this planet. Lucius's eyes shot out 2 sharp beams, striking Cain like sword blades. A thought flashed through his mind, to forcibly take Cain away. My life scanner shows your adrenaline is rising, and I advise you not to use violence against me. After hearing Cain's words, Lucius bowed gracefully. Of course, esteemed Deputy Director of Foundry. He decided to pray to the Black Emperor first to avoid committing blasphemy through his recklessness. Greater than 976. I have far surpassed Dornay, but I still have much more to achieve. Nation of Disorder, the 4th level of space. Nimrod, seated high on his throne, listened to Emperor's Children by the 13th Company. After reading Lucius's report, he couldn't help but think to himself. Because of my intervention, the process of Mars splitting was completely different. I'm so impressed, Archon. He promoted a new mind space that blocked the Scrapcode's attack. Originally, the Scrapcode had almost destroyed most of the forgings, except for Zagreus Kane's Mundus Oculum, Cori's Magma City, and Iproven Maxima forging. I'm awesome again. The combined strength of the Emperor's Children and the Death Guard, totaling 31,420 men, was stronger than the 4 companies of the Imperial Fists and the 40,000 Grenadier of Saturn and Jupiter, and they withstood the subsequent attack by the Dark Mechanicum. Nimrod thought of the Schiaparelli Great Treasury, open black lens bracket him, Mars' greatest treasure trove of knowledge was destroyed by the Scrapcode, causing a great loss of technology after the Great Birthday Celebration, close black lens bracket. After Nathaniel and the Twilight Raiders completed the backup, I gained control of most of Mars' technology. Nimrod gathered his thoughts and gave the order. The new power armor is equipped by the Emperor's Children you lead. With a wave of his hand, a cogitator and 52 data slates vanished into thin air. Open black lens bracket. The standard template construct and data for the Mark VI Raven-powered system have been obtained, close black lens bracket. Nimrod knew that after Mark VI fell into the hands of Roger Dorn, it was given to the Raven Guard, who had suffered heavy losses after the Landing Point Massacre, to support them in rebuilding their legions and continuing to fight against Horus Lupercal's traitorous army. The Raven Guard fully leverages the agility of the Mark VI and incorporates a range of improvements with the technology of the Key of All. In fact, after feeling oppressed by Horus, Corax, who had returned to Deliverance, asked Jiao to develop new power armor in order to get rid of Warmaster's oppression. In honor of Corax and Raven Guard, for their contributions to the development of the Mark VI, this model was ultimately named the Raven. The Raven type became the main equipment of the Loyalists during the Siege of Terra and the Great Purge. Open black lens bracket. Corax, I'm impressed with your Mark VI again, close black lens bracket. The Loyalist, Emperor's Children, replaced the Raven Guard as the first Astartes to be equipped with Mark VI. As Nimrod pondered, his gaze shifted to another set of armor. It has a heavy breastplate to house the cables on its chest, a design that overcomes the Raven's only truly exposed weakness. It features a double-headed eagle to symbolize loyalty to the Emperor, which is why the Mark VII was later named the Aquila. This armor will be the primary equipment of the Astartes for the next 10,000 years. Open black lens bracket. The Loyalists are still mostly equipped with Mark II and Mark IV, but my entire legion has switched to Mark IV, close black lens bracket. For a period afterward, due to supply difficulties, the Mark V Heretic, a simplified version of the Mark IV with a higher substitutability, was used instead, as it was more cumbersome and prone to overheating, until the Siege of Terra, when the Mark VI was finally used. My legions are now capable of mass-producing the Mark VI, and even experimentally producing the Mark VII. To date, Nimrod has surpassed all the strategic goals and gains achieved by the Imperial Fists in the Civil War on Mars, at a much lower cost. After defeating Dorne and Corax, the Order Shadow power armor is already a generation ahead of the Loyalists, about to be 2 or 3 generations ahead, and will also be 1 or 2 generations ahead of the Rebels. But that's not enough, it falls far short of satisfying me. There are still more goals to achieve, and more to accomplish. Nimrod knew that he had strategic objectives to achieve in order to secure his advantage. Alpha, following Warmaster's orders, infiltrated Mars and seized the power armor prototype and its data. Nimrod recalled that although Sigismund relied on his superb swordsmanship to kill every traitorous Alpha he encountered, he did not win strategically. Alpha successfully infiltrated the Forge Temple and stole the data on Mark VII. He knew that Horus coveted Mars' 2 major assets, the Mark VII STC and the Akashic Decipher developed by Corey Jersey. He has already obtained the Mark VII, and he also wants the Akashic Analyzer, and he wants to prevent Horus from obtaining both. You must be wary of their attacks, and at the same time, fill the ships with armor and other equipment. Remember, it must be completely full, every cabin of the Astartes monks must be filled. My lord, this will affect the ship's maneuverability, Lucius asked, puzzled. No, Nimrod said. You will receive a new warship, more powerful than the Pride of the Emperor, as your flagship. Among the Imperial warships, only the Phalanx can compare. This is my reward for you for fulfilling the decree. All the munitions piled up on your ships will fill the armory of your new flagship. Lucius knelt on one knee. Thank you, my lord, for this. I will definitely fill every inch of the warship with space. What cannot be filled will be used to bury the enemy. After that, Cain will realize he can't hold onto the foundry. Nimrod hoped to win over Cain, the future fabricator general of the Adeptus Mechanicus, to his side. Cain will wield immense influence in the future Adeptus Mechanicus and the political landscape of the Empire. Open black lens bracket. I could even use Cain's obsession with Mars to win him over, close black lens bracket. Nimrod knew that although Cain was loyal to Terra and the Emperor, Mars was still the most important person in his heart. During the Webway Wars, he, as the Emperor's trusted commander, betrayed the Imperial Guard and collaborated with the Archon in an attempt to find the Webway to Mars. Furthermore, during the Great Birthday celebration, the Oil Men maintained that the claim by both Kelberhal and Cain to the title of Fabricator General was an unresolved equation, which they termed a binary succession. Cain's representative on the Terra Council, Vesorial, proposed creating a new Adeptus Mechanicus to address this issue. However, the Council of Terra, fearing that the Mars would use this as an opportunity to seize power, directly rejected Cain's request. After Cain threatened the Titan Order with withdrawal from the Sun War, and dispatched the Imperial-class Titan Calamity Flame of the Flame Legion to storm into the Imperial Senate's Council Hall, the resolution was forcibly passed. Cain's loyalty was not absolute. Mars' interests were clearly his priority. Malcador and Dorn are unwilling to help him, but I'm happy to lend a hand. Although Camba Diaz was more composed than Sigismund, he was still forced to retreat in the face of Lucas Crom's hate robot, the Caban robot. He even abandoned the Jovian Grenadier, who had no hope of evacuation. In the end, if it weren't for the arrival of 30 teleportation soldiers on the battlefield who blocked the Abomination robot, the 40,000 Jovian Grenadier who participated in the battle would have been completely wiped out. Your final task is to join forces with Vespasian and Nathaniel Garo to conquer Mundus Gamma. Seize all the spoils of war, and finally blow up Crom's foundry. Mundus Gamma in Crom was another foundry with Mark VI manufacturing templates, and the only foundry comparable in size to Mundus Oculum. It must be destroyed. This would be a heavy blow to Kelberhal and Horus. 977 There is no Omniscia at all. Sage, Lord Corey Zess of Magma City apprentice Poke stood beside his mentor, gazing at Ambassador Melgator as he stepped onto the foundry steps. He wore a black velvet hat, and his thin body was wrapped in a long robe with sable trim. Open black lens bracket. At this point, I hope readers will remember our domain name, Taiwan Novel Network, which is super convenient. 1. Oh. Enjoy at any time, close black lens bracket. His eyes were filled with malevolent darkness, constantly radiating his pain to those around him, sending chills down his spine and that of the Equitos machine spirit. Melgator was accompanied by a slender woman whose entire body was covered in a shimmering synthetic bodysuit. Could it really be her? Poke asked in his mind space. Coral's bio-scanner detected her unease. Yes, if you can avoid it, don't talk to her. I swear on my life, nobody wants to talk to death. Poke looked at the swaying bodysuit, as if ripples of blood were spreading across it. She is certainly not the ambassador's bodyguard, and even Fabricator General would not be so extravagant as to have a mechanical assassin as a bodyguard. Mechanical assassins are mysterious and cold-blooded killers who have existed since the first humans set foot on Mars. They show no courtesy to anyone except the unknown lords of Dorsa and Theodoria. Corel stared at the mechanical assassin's long, multi-jointed legs as it glided lightly across the milky white marble floor. It was a complex series of magnetic gravity thrusters that made her movements both beautiful and deadly. Her genetic modifications and surgical enhancements sculpted her into a perfect physique. Given the scrapcode attack from Fabricator General, Corey didn't know if she would be killed by the mechanical assassin's blade in seconds, her blood dripping onto the steps of her furnace. Melgator walked stiffly and with a click-clack sound to Corey. Z's Archmagos, it's a pleasure to visit your foundry again. Melgator, this is my sage, apprentice, Poke. Melgator sensed Corey watching him warily from beside his companion, who wore a grinning crimson skull mask. My assistant, Remir. Coral stared at the gleaming metal horn of the skull's chin on the mask, a targeting device intently aimed at the weak points of her armor. She glanced at Poke, who, while adopting a respectful posture, tucked his hands into the sleeves of his robe. Ambassador, what brings you here? Corel asked. These are the dark days of death. Fabricator General hopes to send me here in the hopes of gaining your friendship. Who would bring an assassin to win a friendship? Corel turned to Remia. Have the Sisters of Sidonia become diplomatic ambassadors? I can sense your fear of me, yet you still speak with such sharp words. Remia's gentle tone suddenly turned cold. You know I would kill you because of your provocation, so why did you still do it? There will be no killing here, our mission is to rebuild friendships, Melgator said with a smile. In this era, allies are more valuable than mere data streams. Corey stared intently at Melgator. Does Fabricator General know who released the scrap code in Mars' system? He's not sure yet. Melgator looked at the intact foundry. But he wants to know how Magma City escaped the disasters that some furnaces unfortunately suffered, and perhaps you can generously share the secrets. Fabricator General is very interested in your latest findings, whatever they may be. You smuggled transcribers from Terra and secretly took a large number of psychers from the Black Ship. How did you know about my core furnace research project? Coral only shared the progress of the Akashic translator with Iproven Maxima and Arkan Land. Even Kane only knows the part of the peripheral project's thought space. Could it be? Warmaster was the only one who knew the movements of the black ships. He and Kelberhal want my research findings. Information is woven into every electronic channel of this red planet, and, as you know, Machine Spirit likes to share the secrets between them. I've already said I've adopted a new mind space, Corey said cautiously. Melgator smiled. Okay, I accept your answer. Then perhaps you can share your technology with us at Libertas. If Fabricator General had trusted me more, perhaps I would, Corey questioned. Then I'll be frank, Melgator said. The Fabricator General is trying to unite all the true monks to defend Mars. Protect Mars. Protect whom? Corey asked. Terra. Melgator said. The Great Crusade is over. The Emperor wants to end the alliance with Mars and he wants to take our world for himself. Do you really think the Emperor would allow us to exist in the empire he created? When we are no longer of use to Tyrant, that will be the time for him to strike. Corey laughed. Now I know why you brought the assassin as a bodyguard. You were afraid I'd kill you, the traitor. Z's, watch your words, Melgator warned. Otherwise, are you going to order Remiel to kill me? Corey asked. I would never assassinate the master of Mars Foundry and provoke the avatar of Omniscia, Melgator asked. Omniscia, Corell said disdainfully. You say the Emperor was disloyal to Adeptus Mechanicus, and then you use that as a reason not to kill me. Melgator shook his head. The Emperor is not Omniscia. If you join us, you will see Omniscia manifest. Most people believe they are one entity, Corey said. You don't believe it either, do you? Melgator said. You know what my beliefs are, Corey said. There is no Omniscia at all. The Emperor is right. Technology is science and reason, not superstition and blind obedience. Those who betray Fabricator General will suffer terrible consequences, Melgator threatened. If you don't want war, leave now. Coral's mechanical right arm swung and crackled. They can't leave. The mechanical assassin is extracting information from the mind space. A deep voice sounded from the portable mind space receiver in Coral's helmet. Arkan Land, the sound of Archmagos. She silently broke through the logical barrier and stole your information data. A ray of starlight quietly appeared, enveloping Remiel's body. Jersey, you have assassins too. She charged forward like a falcon. Let's have some fun. Rand. She moved with light steps, rushing forward in the starlight that was like water. The serpentine sensor on the back of the mechanical assassin's head swung, open black lens bracket increasing the gravity to 2.7 times its original level, and it continues to rise, close black lens bracket. Her body grew heavier and heavier, and her swift steps slowed down. What do we do? Poke asked her mentor through her mind space. Coral had hoped to avoid a direct conflict with Fabricator General, at least until her project was finally completed. But now it's time to make a decision. Rumors suggest that the mechanical assassin has the ability to hack into any independent network. If she does manage to bypass my defenses and access my memory data, then she may obtain information related to the Akashic decipher. Kelberhal and Horus must never know the secret of the Akashic records. Jersey, open your eyes and see the consequences of going against Fabricator General, Melgator warned. Rand discovered many holy templates, but he was an exploratory Archmagos, skilled in technological archaeology and research, not combat. Even Archmagos, the ruler of the Skitarii, could not escape the mechanical assassin's slaughter at close range in a one-on-one battle. This is your last chance. Traitor, Corey shouted angrily. Simultaneously, within her mental space, she sent communication messages to Commander Fudicotia, the Lord of the Tower Lannis Knight's family, and Archmagos Kamar Argos, the commander of the Exum Legion of the Great Branch Legion. Mechanical assassin. Poke drew a laser pistol from his sleeve and aimed it at Remia, when the mechanical assassin opened its mouth and uttered a syllable. A scrapcode packet penetrated the defense mechanism and entered Poke's body. She was struck dumb, her body crackling as she collapsed to the ground with a thud. Scrapcode. Corey shouted. The scrapcode came from you, the attack came from you. You provided the Sidonia sisters with scrapcodes so they could work for you. Melgator clapped his withered hands together. Jersey Archmagos, you guessed right. But your time is running out, make a choice. He looked at Remia, and suddenly his eyes narrowed. 978 Could Nimrod really be Omniscia, and he bestowed Arkan upon him? Magma City. Astrumur, Arkan land was surrounded by a shimmering, illusory cosmos that slowly swirled around him. The popping sounds inside Sage Poke's body immediately subsided, and her trembling body gradually calmed down. Black smoke billowed from the snake-shaped sensor behind Remelia's head, and a series of sparks erupted from her raised arm. A beam of light shot from Arkan's astronomer eyes as he sped through the false starscape. Streams of illusory light merged in, and in an instant, the initial light condensed into a sharp blade. Remiel used her magnetic gravity thrusters to evade. Crackling sound. After a series of loud explosions, the magnetic gravity thrusters that modified her legs suddenly went offline. My legs have been demagnetized. Bang! Heavy footsteps sounded as the Ares of the Tower Lannis family's Forticodia rushed out of the city. The War Knight Ekitos followed closely behind him. The mechanical foot slammed into the ground, and the Ares suddenly stopped. Maji quickly gripped the touchscreen gloves and pushed them to the right to avoid crashing into the commander's mechanical body. Kamar Argos of the Exum Legion walked past the knight's mech amidst the tremors of the ground. Archmagos, the ruler, stared intently at Arkan, his motion and static sensors activating and flashing with a mix of red and green light. His fully sanctified body gripped the Sage Scepter and the Power Axe, while the War Engine rapidly analyzed all captured information. Numerous problems arose, and some were resolved. Some problems lead to more problems, becoming intricately intertwined around the core issue. How did Arkan Land's flesh and blood defeat a mechanical assassin? Archmagos, Lord of Magma City, stared at Arkan as if he were seeing the renowned Archmagos of Mars for the first time. He saw Arkan raise his hand, and rays of starlight shot towards the terrifying machine assassin. The ghostly, swift mechanical assassin seemed to be nailed to the spot, allowing a series of starlight rays to engulf her genetically modified body. In the flowing starlight, the genetically modified body disintegrated and scattered into sand. Upon seeing the mechanical assassin die, Ambassador Melgator immediately turned and fled. He raised his ebony cane and shook the howling wolf's head. A large amount of irregular, arrhythmic technical language surged from the enhancer inside his body. The ebony cane made a piercing sound as he spoke, and the cannon towers and weapon platforms on the city wall exploded one after another. The weapon platform, paralyzed by scrapcode, erupted in bursts of flames, which then crashed down with a whooshing sound. Melgator seized the chaos it created and charged outwards. Coral, do you see that? Arkan said, pointing to Melgator. They are the attackers. They have fallen. Archmagos, the ruler, stared intently as Arkan raised his right arm, his fingertips projecting starlight that struck Melgator's body. His sensors captured the trajectory of the starlight throughout, and the War Engine performed hundreds of calculations before providing the results. Open black lens bracket and energy attack condensed from starlight, close black lens bracket. Energy mode unknown. The comparison with the database was completed, and the most similar result was the energy rays emitted by Archaeotech pistol and collected from the planetary radiative layer, with a similarity of 36.52%. Melgator's spine, along with the attached modifications, bulged out, mingling with twisted flesh and blood. His arms slammed to the ground, emitting a terrifying roar like a canine, while mechanical tentacles swirled around his body. You mutated them. Corey stared at the monster, a mixture of flesh and machine. It's just about inducing him to be his true self, Astronomer said. I will show you clearly how scrapcode changed Melgator, turning him into a monster. Quote. As he spoke, Astronomer raised his left arm, and a starlight shone from his fingertips. Archmagos once again captured the entire process in its entirety, and the War Engine provided new results. Open black lens bracket. The comparison with the database has been completed, showing a similarity of 49.17% with the energy level of position 12 and a similarity of 28.03% with the energy rays of the planetary radiative zone. Coral witnessed the removal of Kelber Hal's most trusted man and his personal ambassador Melgator from the starlight, realizing that she and Magma City had completely aligned themselves against Fabricator General. She sent orders to the medical servitor team, then asked a question on the Archmagos' dedicated frequency in her mind space. Arkan, what power did you just use? Arkan sensed that Argos and Forticodia's consciousness was also focused on him. That is the divine power bestowed upon me by Omniscia. The Emperor, Corel said thoughtfully. No, Arkan denied. Not the Emperor. Argos asked, puzzled. Throughout Mars, everyone knows that you firmly believe in the duality of Omniscia and Emperor. I was wrong, Arkan confessed. I thought he was, but he isn't. Melgator is right about that. Who is the real Omniscia you're talking about? Forticodia asked. Nimrod, Arkan said devoutly. He found Holy Template, a value that no one can match. He granted me the power I just used. If you believe in him as devoutly as I do, you may also receive his gifts. Nimrod. Argos and Forticodia's thoughts collided at the same time. Omniscia. That's right. Arkan's unwavering conviction completely overwhelmed their doubts. I think you can all foresee the future course of the war. Fabricator General and his followers have overwhelming power in Mars, and we cannot hold out indefinitely. You can choose to die gloriously in battle, or you can choose another path. Retreat temporarily, gather your strength, continue to fight the traitors, and eventually return to Mars. You mean Lord Nimrod will help us? Asked Archmagos. Since its inception, the Intelligent Control Legion has always adhered to the principle of independence. Even now, he has not decided to firmly choose sides in the internal trade conflict. His situation in Exum, part of the Hongji Legion, also prevented him from making a decision. He was neither favored by the Fabricator General nor particularly hated. Argos temporarily chose to side with Coral only because he lacked the power to escape the devastating war on the orbit. Meanwhile, when the system is attacked, Coral's mind space helps his legion avoid devastating damage. Arkan's suggestion offered him a way out. That's right, Arkan replied affirmatively. Is Nimrod really Omniscia? It bestowed upon Arkan a magical secret, granting him the power to kill mechanical assassins. No, Corel spoke after a long silence. I do not believe in Omniscia and the existence of Omniscia. All mysteries can be explained. But I am very interested in the strength you have shown, and I will seriously consider your suggestion. You still have time to consider. We will not let the traitors win. We will use the city walls and the foundry to strike the traitors as hard as possible, Arkan said. I will immediately travel to Ipruvian Maxima to offer assistance and advice to him and Storm Titan Legion. Arkan, I will go with you, Argos decided. Greater than 979. I am Alpharius, you have already failed. Lucius's jump pack spewed blue flames, the intense heat blurring the air behind him. He led the Nashki Brigade, and hurried toward the external refinery of Mundus Oculum. Kane's cybernetic automata was ill-suited to handling rapidly changing situations and frequent enemy attacks, so Lucius responded to the request of the Deputy Director of Casting. He did not order all of the 13th Company's Emperor's children to attack. He always kept in mind the Black Emperor's decree and remained vigilant against alpha attacks. Solasan, the lieutenant of the Nashka Squadron, led 30 squads of warriors to guard the Temple of Data. For the past 6 hours, Lucius has been running around the Forged City, repelling attacks on Mundus Oculum time and again, his blade reaping swaths of twisted battle servitors. My lord, we are 1 kilometer away from the target, Vespasian, the Eagle King of the Raptor cult, reported. In Emperor's Children, each type of unit has formed a unique elite force. The Phoenician Wings are the most skilled at using jump packs to launch attacks, and their leader is known as the Eagle King. After leaving Istvan, Vespasian, who admired Lucius's flawless swordsmanship, chose to become a member of the Nashki squad, who were loyal to Lucius personally. Vespasian gripped the golden spear tightly in his claws, while his blue flame wings gracefully swept through the air. Just as Lucius was about to reply, a roar suddenly sounded. A barrage of bullets shot into the sky, directly attacking Emperor's children. Lucius's jump pack output power suddenly increased, and with a loud bang, he leapt into the air. Raptor, charge. Yes, sir, Eagle King Vespeti replied, his body swooping down like a raptor. Behind him, 30 of the Emperor's children's best jump pack assault warriors followed closely, crouching low and charging headfirst. The Nemesis-type bolter fired a precision-guided bomb, its trajectory precisely aimed at the 31 sets of purple-gold armor. Before Vespasian could even fully take in the barrage of bullets, the new power armor's automatic sensing system had already identified all the attacks and planned an evasive route. He turned his body with remarkable agility, his movements small yet allowing him to make a significant change of direction. Vespasian dodged left and right like a circling eagle, dodging the incoming explosives while simultaneously getting used to his new armor. It is lighter and more flexible than the Mark IV Extreme. A dense barrage of bullets hurtled into the air, but none of them hit a single member of the Raptor cult. Vespasian let out a howl in the team channel and then swooped down. The beak of his new powered armor's cone-shaped visor was reflected in the Alpha's eyes, echoing the Palatine Aquila on his chest. Vespasian's golden spear, gripped tightly in his claws, emitted a blinding light and whistled as it pierced into his indigo helmet. The trail of flames from the jump backpack propelled Vespasian forward, the tip of his golden spear plunging almost horizontally into the mouth of the Alpha behind him. With a flick of his arm, Vespeti's head exploded. He landed on his feet and then soared into the air, causing the dozen or so Alphas who were attacking him to miss their targets. Vespasian glanced at the battlefield as 30 raptors roared and crashed into different positions on the Alpha lines, scattering their dense formation. Members of the Nashka squadron then landed and charged at Alpha with their weapons. Andros, the blade of Paratine, descended alone into the front ranks, wielding his broadsword, Shanabar. The serrated blade spun and tore open the neck of a traitor. As blood dripped down, Andros had already moved in front of another traitor. He deflected the clumsy, crude power sword, and with a flick of his wrist, the elegant Shanabal broadsword was delivered, piercing the Alpha's neck. Every member of the Nashka is a follower of Lucius's flawless dueling skills, but even the blade of Paratine is no match for him. When Vespeti saw Lucius descend alone into the Alpha ranks, he bent over and straightened up, his twin swords flashing and dancing. In 2 turns, the spinning blade, like a guillotine, claimed the lives of 4 Alphas. Alpha, clad in a Pluto-type Terminator, raised his spear and thrust it at Lucius. Lucius leapt backward, and as his spear missed its mark, he lunged forward, charging at the enemy from the left. A member of the guard wearing Mark IV power armor approached him. Lucius raised his right arm to block the attack, slipped his foot, and thrust out his left sword with a backhand. The blade swept past the guard's head and precisely pierced the Pluto-type Terminator's abdomen. Vespasian's eyes lit up as he pounced down, following the flawless swordsman in his attack. Bang! With a short, sharp crack, a Nashka member who had swung his sword and severed Alpha's arm collapsed to the ground. Lucius raised his sword, deflecting the bullets, and a deadly trajectory flashed through the mind of the weapon master. Sniper. He looked toward 4 o'clock and, amidst the layers of industrial facilities, locked onto the Alpha snipers scattered across 2 different buildings. Lucius and Vespasian simultaneously soared into the air, lunging towards the sniper. Bang! Bang! 2 snipers swiftly retreated through the building, occasionally firing bullets. Vespasian leapt with his backpack, tracing a perfect arc in the air before swooping down. Alpha abruptly stopped, coldly raised his gun, and fired a bullet at Vespasian. Vespasian gracefully flipped, dodging the bullets, and lunged into the building. Ambush! Lucius's voice suddenly rang out, and Vespasian twisted his body sharply, pulling himself up before falling. Boom boom boom! Amidst the roar of artillery, clouds of dust and smoke billowed up, and black flames from the explosions grazed past the new-powered armor. A piercing alarm sounded, and warning runes flashed across the tactical interface. Open black lens bracket breastplate damaged, close black lens bracket. The ambush was concealed by the heat of the industrial facility and was not detected by any bird-catching devices, such as automatic sensing systems. However, Weapon Master, Lucius, after discovering the strange spiritual light hidden within the building below through spirit vision, immediately alerted Vespasian. Their light was dim, gleaming with an eerie gray-black glow. Lucius looked down at the bizarre creature exposed below, its flesh and body fused together. Some bodies were so emaciated from radiation that they were almost skin and bones, yet they carried radiation weapons on their backs. There were also 8 arms, which manipulated the black cannons on their round bellies. Flank from the side. Lucius issued the order on the Nashka channel and immediately landed on a water tower. An eerie gray-green light followed, striking the water tower. Boom! The water tower exploded with a deafening roar, and eerie green flames raged in the circulating water, instantly reducing the entire water tower to ashes. Lucius leapt down and immediately rushed into a factory building. A swollen creature, a mixture of flesh and metal, slowly turned the muzzle of its cannon. The moment the cannon was aimed at Lucius, he had already appeared in front of the enemy and swung his sword. Bang! His swollen body collapsed to the ground, but Lucius didn't stop and rushed out of the factory. Black flames crashed against the factory buildings, and amidst the billowing smoke, Lucius charged toward his next target. An eerie, ghostly green light swept past him a few meters to his right and struck a Nashka warrior. A strange light flashed, instantly tearing apart the corrosion purple gold armor and the new power armor with radiated energy. Superman's body crackled and popped as the corrosion struck him. Emperor's children let out a muffled groan of pain, and his riddled body collapsed with a thud. Scatter! Lucius shouted. The Nashikai members immediately dispersed, and they began dueling in their most familiar style, starting from the Dark Mechanicum. Skitari launched a swift attack from both sides. The slow-moving enemy was eliminated one by one, and the battle line continued to advance. The black flames spewed by the roaring cannons futilely leveled workshops and factories, and when they were lucky enough to hit, they mercilessly blasted Emperor's children into dust. The powerful radiation rays crackled and missed their mark, grazing the purple gold armor and causing the body inside to rot into pus. Just as Lucius and his Nashka squad were clearing the industrial area, they were attacked again by Alpha snipers. The 13th pursuit ended, and the Nashki Brigade had circled Mundus Oculum twice. Vespeti frowned and said to Lucius, "Lord Lucius, the Alphas are constantly launching sniper attacks, luring us into the ambush of the corrupt Scutari. The ambush points are all far apart, which is obviously a way to wear us down. While we killed over 500 Alphas and thousands of Scutari, we also lost 106 warriors." The earth trembled violently as soon as he finished speaking. Lucius and the others looked in the direction of the sound and saw huge black figures appearing in the distance. A deafening roar suddenly erupted, and shadows swept overhead, crashing down on the walls of Mundus Oculum like a tidal wave. Boom boom boom. Amidst the billowing smoke, cracks appeared on the city walls. The fortress-type automatons did not fire a single shot, even their longest-range weapons could not hit the Titan. Boom. Amidst the towering black flames, shattered debris rained down on the ground. "You're right, the Alphas have already begun implementing their plan," Lucius said. "Retreat," he ordered, switching the communication channel to his mind space. "Legio Mortis, the deputy director of Foundry, and Alpha have launched their attack. Have you thought it through? Mundus Oculum is my foundry, and I will never abandon it. I will live and die with him." Lucius closed the communication channel and took a sip. Kane's brain is as dull as steel. He activated his jump spray and led the Nashka squadron at breakneck speed toward the city. Streaks of blue flames exploded into clusters of pale red runes on the Warhound's class Titan screen in front of it. A door cannon was aimed at Emperor's children, and Vulcan super heavy shells roared into the air. Beep beep. The piercing alarm sounded frequently in the automatic sensing system of the new armor. The members of Nashikai jumped, backpacks, roared, and screamed, their high-frequency thrusts causing the purple-gold armor to overheat. Boom. Lucius's tactical interface shows that he has lost the runes of 2 of his subordinates. He didn't stop, his eyes piercing through the city wall, fixed on the enemy in dark green armor. Feeling those sharp, sword-like eyes pierce him, Alpha, Archon turned around. He looked at Lucius and raised his musket mockingly. "I am Alpharius, you have failed. Greater than 980 Sigismund, the weapons and equipment we couldn't take are yours." 200 figures in indigo blue rapidly advanced through the city of Mundus Oculum, amidst the roar of cannons. They raised the bolt pistol and unleashed a barrage of bullets, blasting the mechs blocking their path into dust. Crackling sound. Open black lens bracket at this point. I hope readers will remember our domain name. It's an amazing tool for following Taiwanese novels, close black lens bracket. Beams of blue light shot out and struck Alpha. On warrior. Bang. The charred corpse fell to the ground. Not a single Alpha faltered, they all raised their guns and fired in unison. The barrage of comments tore a hole in the Wallach-type cybernetic automata, with no Alpha fixated on revenge. They must complete the plan. Archon's constant harassment successfully lured Lucius away from the data temple. Now, all they need to do is raid the data temple, kill the Scutari inside, and they will obtain the data they need. Blue runes simultaneously rose on the tactical interface, and their superhuman vision had already revealed the magnificent temple. A series of bright red runes flashed. Suddenly, rows of purple gold armor appeared around the data temple. Emperor's children, Alpha Yan exclaimed in surprise. The explosions roared as a barrage of bullets rained down, taking down more than a dozen Alphas. "Traitors, Lord Lucius already knew about your plot," Sorosan said sneer. The streaks of indigo runes disappeared rapidly from the Alpha's tactical interface, making Archon, who was barely managing to withstand the swift blades, even more panicked. Your plot has already been exposed." Lucius knew that he had sent Sorosan to guard the data temple, thwarting the Alpha's infiltration and fulfilling the Black Emperor's oracle. "You should die with your men, Alpharius." Lucius swung his right arm, his longsword sweeping across and striking the powered spear. With light steps, he wielded his left sword and plunged it into the Alpha. Archon's abdomen. Lucius drew his sword and looked up at the sky. The yellow gunboat roared down and landed on the helipad ahead. Imperial fists. Lucius stepped forward, watching the landing gear descend, and a warrior clad in yellow Terminator's armor strode down. He had deep blonde hair and his azure eyes shone like sapphires. A scar on his right eye marred the noble appearance typical of Emperor's children, extending from his cheek to his chin. He was burly and robust, at least half a head taller than the other Terminators behind him. He wore the Emperor's Palatine Aquila on his armor, indicating that he, not one of the Emperor's children, had fought alongside the Emperor and earned his approval. Sigismund. Lucius's eyes lit up as he stared intently at the first captain and first swordsman of the Imperial Fists. Open black lens bracket. A decent opponent, at least stronger than Loken and Erebus, close black lens bracket. Lucius stepped forward. "Sigismund, what brings you here?" I have come under orders from the Sigillite and the Terra Guard to reclaim the assets of Mundus Oculum. Sigismund stared at Emperor's children. Lucius, your father has betrayed the Empire. Acton Cruz should have already told you my position, Lucius said calmly. You are not trustworthy. Sigismund gripped the hilt of his sword. I don't care about your and your father's trust, Lucius said. I will fight alongside Lord Nimrod. Lord Nimrod. Sigismund frowned. He will believe you. Lucius's eyes suddenly sharpened. Of course. I am his flawless blade. Don't block my way, Sigismund warned sternly before turning and walking away. Sigismund, you're too late. Lucius's voice sounded from behind, causing Sigismund to pause. I have already taken the data assets with me. We are wearing new armor. But there are still some Mark IV powered armor and other equipment that our ship can't fit on. You can take these weapons and equipment back with you. Sigismund turned around abruptly and roared. You think I'm a scavenger? Lucius shrugged. Whatever. You don't have to. You should be glad you didn't arrive too late, otherwise they would have been reduced to ashes. I will leave nothing for the rebels. He walked past Sigismund with his neck held high. Sigismund watched as the Emperor's children, clad in new power armor, walked past him, his grip tightening on his sword hilt. I forgot to tell you, Tycho Brahe's ammunition depot also contains nearly 3.8 billion tons of ordnance, Lucius said leisurely. If you want it, go get it as soon as possible. Sigismund slowly released the blade, opened the communication channel, and issued orders to the two companies he led. Move out immediately in small teams. Send all available weaponry onto the transport ships. The Empire needs them. Lucius activated his jump pack, traversing the inertial casting workshops as he moved forward. He opened the communication channel and called the Nashikai members who were piloting the Claw Queen. Landed near Forge Temple, preparing for evacuation. Yes, Sir Lucius. After hanging up the communication, Lucius could already see the magnificent Forge Temple. Bang! The roaring blue flames spewed from the jumping backpack blasted the plaza into a hazy blur. He strode forward, rushed into the Forge Temple, and went straight to Cain. Fabricator General, come with me immediately. No. Zagreus Cain refused decisively. I will never abandon my foundry, nor will I flee from the sacred Mars. Your foundry is lost, Lucius shouted. If you live, you will have everything again. Your foundry, your Mars. Lord Nimrod will help you. Lord Nimrod. Cain pressed. He will help me. He will help you, Lucius said, extending his right arm to pull Cain along as they strode away. Just as the two ran out of Forge Temple, a Thunderhawk helicopter roared down. Cain glanced at the magnificent purple-gold gunboat, its hull engraved with dense text. The memory buffer was activated, and it was identified as Chemo's script. He was dragged by Lucius onto the Queen Claw. Cain shook off Lucius's hand, climbed onto the viewing window, and gazed at his forged city through the narrow window. The massive titan of the Dead Skull Legion strode through the city wall, unleashing a crimson beam of light. The destructive beam slammed into a 12-story building, sending plumes of black smoke billowing into the sky and raging flames engulfing the entire foundry. The rubble, carrying flames, crashed to the ground. The Lord-type and Annihilation-type cybernetic automata launched a suicide attack, but their attack landed futilely on the Titan. On the Void Shield, it was immediately blasted into pieces by the devastating cannonball. A mushroom cloud suddenly rose up, and Cain watched as the tilted Warhound Titan was engulfed in flames. I have given the order to place molten metal bombs in the reactor furnace. The Titan that destroys your foundry will suffer the consequences of your furnace exploding. Cain nodded, watching the plumes of black smoke rising below. Greater than. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.